What do you think is magic about Minot?
There's literally something for everyone.
Checking out a local restaurant.
Baseball.
Walking into a small business and visiting with the shop owner.
I think Minot's community-minded businesses make it magic.
Be thrilled.
Rediscover.
Experience.
With the magic in Minot.
How the community rallies around the Minot Air Force Base members and spouses that come to work in the Magic City.
Get involved!
The support.
Be part of the magic in Minot.
We can do anything.
Come and see.
The residents that make Minot magic, and that's what I love about Minot.
Go Minot!
The recreation.
The zoo!
The community.
The magic of discovery.
This community promotes literacy. It is the energy!
You know what makes Minot magic to me? It's our downtown.
I believe Mesa really puts the magic in Minot.
Opportunity.
The culture.
The generosity and the unyielding friendliness.
The way our community comes together.
Be a part of the magic in Minot.
Hey Minot, 2020 is the year for more. Yes, it's the U.S. Census season, and with it, Minot could see more. More opportunities for business. More federal funding for roads, for our schools, and for our community. Take part in something more. Take the census. Because for us, more means more. Visit minotnd.org to learn more.
You know what makes Minot magic to me?
Good friends.
Great people.
It's our downtown.
You can't beat it.
Welcome.
Rediscover.
Rediscover the magic in Minot.
We'll call the meeting of the Minot City Council to order for today, Monday, September 21st. It is 5:30. I would ask that anyone in the audience go ahead and put your electronic devices on silent or on mute so that we can keep the distractions down to a minimum. Roll call, please.
Evans.
Here.
Janser.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Pittner.
Here.
Padragula.
Here.
Ross.
Here.
Sitma.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Number 3 on our agenda is the consent items. We have 15 different items on consent. I would look to one more time to see if there's any individual items within the 15 that need to be pulled for individual discussion. And anyone in the audience on any of the consent items that would need to be pulled for individual discussion, otherwise they will pass with recommendations. If not, Alderman Pittner.
Mayor, I move that we move
Motion by Alderman
motion that we
Pittner to
move
approve
consent on.
with consent, second by Alderman Ross. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. That takes us to Section 4 on our agenda this evening. This is the consent items. 4.1 is to adopt ordinance number 5529 on second reading, adopting the 2021 annual budget, and adopt a resolution establishing rates, fees, and charges pertaining to Minot's International Airport. The two recommendations tonight are the City Council place and pass ordinance 5529 on second reading, to adopt the 2021 annual budget, and to adopt a resolution establishing the 2021 rates, fees, and charges pertaining to Minot's International Airport.
So moved.
The motion to approve by Alderman Pittner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Ross. Discussion on the motion. Alderwoman Evans.
I think our airport director is here. Could he come up for a question? Mr. Feltner?
Might be.
Oh,
here.
there he is. Thank you. I saw you, yeah.
Good afternoon, Mr. Feldner.
Hi, sir.
Good afternoon, all.
If you could just give me a bit of background, how do you go about assessing sort of the rates and the changes you propose to us, and just providing a bit of background on that process?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, Alderman Evans, and members of council, the way we set rates and charges is a kind of multifaceted approach, and it depends on what part of the budget we're looking at, and it can get fairly complicated, and I don't want to go too far in the weeds here, but essentially we have our operational expenses that we take care of, and then we account for revenue, and revenue comes in essentially two forms: aeronautical and non-aeronautical. So the money that we collect from Delta Airlines, for example, for landing fees or lease space is aeronautical revenue. Revenue that we collect for parking is non-aeronautical revenue. So when we're talking about the airlines and how we come up with their rates and charges, there is a contractual agreement which each of the airlines have signed in their use and lease agreement, which figures out how they're going to pay their portion of the expenses associated with the operation of the airport. So we take all of the maintenance and operations of the airport and we lump that together, and then there are formulas that are plugged in as to how the airlines are going to pay their portion of that. So they have two different kinds of lease space. They have their own private lease space, which would be, for example, a station manager's office or a break room, and then they have common use space, which would be like the baggage claim area or the gate area. And so there are formulas that are applied based upon enplanements and numbers of operations, and that's how their lease space is figured. And then there is a similar formula for landing fees. So every time Allegiant lands an airplane here, that airplane has a maximum landed gross weight, and we charge them, per landing based upon what the maximum of that airplane could handle. Am I on the track of what you are looking for here?
Yep.
So that's the airline side of it. And then we also, of course, set rates and fees for non-aeronautical use. So parking, for example, we set the parking rates. Those have not increased in a couple of years. That's one of those that we look at from a business standpoint in terms of elasticity of demand, if you will, comparing ourselves to other airports and what we think the market can bear here, for example. And then we have the general aviation community, where and you've all been in on a number of discussions on the lease space rates there per square foot, whether, depending on where a hangar is, whether it's in a highly desirable spot or one less so.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate that background.
You're welcome.
Any further questions for our airport director? Thank you, Rick.
You bet.
Any discussion on the motion to approve? Any discussion? Not, we have a motion and a second to adopt ordinance 5529. Please call the roll.
Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson.
Yes.
Motion is approved. 4.2 is the approved purchase price of $215,000 with Marianne LaFontaine, city police and city policies and procedures for flood buyout properties known as involuntary acquisition have a provision that any negotiated purchase price which exceeds 15% of initial offer and $15,000 above the initial offer is presented to the City Council for approval. The original offer made by the city to Marianne LaFontaine was $180,000, and the agreed upon purchase price is $215,000, which exceeds the 15% and $15,000 provision. The recommendation to City Council was to approve the mutually agreed upon purchase price of $215,000 for the flood buyout acquisition of property located at 1516 3rd Avenue Southeast.
Move approval.
Motion by Alderwoman Olson for approval. Is there a second? Second by Alderman Janser. Discussion on the motion. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Olson,
Yes.
Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Janser.
Yes.
Motion is approved. 4.3 is city accept tentative agreement in eminent domain case to acquire 303 6th Street Northeast. On April 2nd, 2019, the city filed eminent domain action against Perry Miller to acquire the property located at 303 6th Street Northeast, Lot 6, Block 2 of Torbinson's Addition, which is necessary for construction, operation, and maintenance of the Mouse River Enhanced Flood Protection Project. Defendant Perry Miller filed an answer to the city's complaint. Settlement negotiations have resulted in a tentative agreement at $193,000. In addition, the issue of attorney's fees and costs will be later decided by the court. The recommendations to the City Council is accept a tentative agreement reached with the property owners and their attorney, which is as follows. 1, agree to purchase the Perry Miller property at 303 6th Street Northeast, necessary for construction, operations, and maintenance of the Mouse River Enhanced Flood Protection Project for the amount of $193,000. 2, property owner will petition the district court for reimbursement for reasonable attorney fees and costs. And 3, possession of property to be promptly transferred to the city for allowing construction of the necessary flood construction.
So move.
Motion by Alderman Janser. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderwoman Olson. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Janser,
Yes.
Olson,
Yes.
Pittner,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Motion is approved. 4.4, the City Hall flag raising. The mayor recommends the City Council limit flag raising at City Hall until a formal policy is developed and approved by the City Council. The exception to this approval should be 1, the POW MI flag, which was previously approved to be raised last Friday, and the NRA flag, which was previously approved to be raised September 25th, 2020. No other applications relating to flag raisings are pending at this time. The mayor also recommends the City Council direct the city manager to develop a formal policy regarding the flag raising at City Hall. The policy should comply with the applicable laws and include references to the applicable flag code and flag etiquette that is in line with the mission statement for the city of Minot. The recommendation to council is to approve a motion, 1, with the exception of the American flag, the state of North Dakota flag, and the city of Minot flag, and 2 previously approved flag raising requests. Cease all ceremonial flag raisings at City Hall, and 2, direct the city manager to develop the formal policy regarding flag raising at City Hall.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderwoman Olson.
I would make a motion to approve this with one edit. And my edit would be to cease the flag raisings as of last Friday.
We have a motion that is a little bit different than the recommendation, but for the raisings to be immediate. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Alderman Patagula. Discussion. Alderwoman Olson.
Mr. Mayor, I assume that we're going to hear from a number of people very shortly, but we have heard from a number of people. In fact, I think over 130 people have reached out to me in the last 2 weeks on different sides of this issue. But one thing that they all had in common was that they felt that it should be only the 3 flags should be flying on that flagpole. That has been the request from a number of people. And so I think that this motion allows for that until we are ready to bring forth a better plan to discuss. So that's the intent of my motion, is to follow the people's wishes.
And seeing as I was the one who had brought the recommendations forward, as well as with many things, there's unwritten policy in many different forms throughout the, I think, the generalities of some of the leadership paradigms. So that was my intent as well for bringing this forward, so that there is a uniform policy and code, as well as the letter and documentation that I sent out to all of the aldermen, as well to potentially look at the prospects of a community flagpole, very much the way that the city of Fargo has one, somewhere in the community that is managed by an entity outside of City Hall, where folks can put in their application and fly for 1 day or 1 week, whatever that process is, dependent on the outline, so that it is, in a way, separation from the issues of church and state or others that have been raised, and also to address the immediate issue that came about, which was expected, that some folks decided to, I think, take advantage of the unwritten process and flood the email inbox with different applications that I would say were not respectful. So that is why I had sent out the email as well with the recommendations. Any further discussion on the motion? Alderman Pittner.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mayor. I can appreciate the recommendation that you've given us. I can't support the motion as it is. I think we never had a policy in place. People came forward. We had something in not in writing. People went through the process, application, it was approved. I think it'd be a little disingenuous to go back at this point. I don't know if there's a legal ramification for going back or not, but again, we set a precedent, and I think we'd have to stick to it whether we agree with it or not. I can't support the motion as is. I would support the original recommendation brought forth by you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Ross.
I want to say ditto, Mr. Mayor. You already gave your approval to the flag that is scheduled to be flown on the 25th. In that respect, I don't want you going back on your approval, and I can't support this motion. I can support and will support the original motion.
Further discussion. Alderwoman Olson.
Mr. Mayor, I have been contacted with a concern for public safety related to the flying of the flag that has been approved for the 25th. And that is another reason that I am suggesting that we wait on flying that flag until we have a better policy in place.
Any further discussion? Alderman Patagula.
I guess I just wanted to ask for a little bit more clarification. I mean, obviously, without jeopardizing any, security or safety issues. But, I have mixed feelings on this. I think we need a timeout until we have some written policies. I also think if the mayor agrees to something, gives his word in a sense, we probably should honor that. But public safety is a very important concern for me, and if there is a legitimate concern, I don't remember which flag is supposed to, we approved 2. I'm not sure which one's still left to go. I guess I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. And I wonder too if the mayor feels that he would in any way be betraying, not betraying is too strong a word, but if he would be violating a commitment that he feels he has made.
Thank you, Alderman Patagula. It is the NRA flag that is scheduled to fly this Friday, and in accordance with the process that was in the unwritten process that I suppose it was in play when it was approved. I would not have an issue as a card-carrying member of the NRA. I wouldn't have an issue, seeing as things have seemed to have escalated around the community a bit. I would say with the number of constituents on both sides of the issue, I would have no problem agreeing with the motion from Alderwoman Olsen at this point, seeing as we can move forward then and draft some guidelines down the road and move forward from there. Alderman Patagula, does that answer your question enough?
Yeah, I think since you're the one who made the commitment, if you feel comfortable with going back on that, I have no problem with that.
Further discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderwoman Olsen.
I want to say to you personally, this is not out of disrespect for the agreement that you made, and it is not out of disrespect for the flag that has been approved. I just think that the process needs to be improved, and should the people that have made the request for this flag, if they would like to make the request later on when we have a policy, great, bring back that request at that time.
Further discussion? We have motion to approve with a second of the recommendations that are effective immediately. Please call the roll.
Olsen?
Yes.
Pittner?
No.
Quadrigula?
Yes.
Ross?
No.
Sitma?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Motion is approved. That takes us to number 5. This is consider the report of the Magic Funds Screening Committee. The Magic Funds Steering Committee recommends City Council authorize the $800,000 purchase the property at 120 Burdick Expressway East for the creation of the CTE. I do want to also address that this item does need to go before a contract committee yet for approval before an action item is taken on this, and I would look to our finance director, Mr. David Lakefield, for more.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to point out that there's been a lot of public information out in the last week or so, and a lot of excitement and momentum surrounding this item. This is just a timing thing. It happened to be that the Magic Fund Screening Committee was held last Friday. Quick turnaround before the next available council meeting. There was also some other news regarding this with the release of funds from HUD. So a lot going on, but there's still a lot of work left to do. The Magic Fund guidelines state that we have to hold the contract committee has to meet, hash out the guidelines for the contract and bring that back at the same time as the city council does its approval. So it's a bit of a logistics issue, but definitely a lot of excitement surrounding this. And I think if there are questions or anyone has questions, folks would certainly be willing to respond to that.
I know we've had some folks that have done a tremendous amount of hard work and due diligence to get this to where we're at. And I would first ask Mr. Mahalik if you want to come forward. I would love to, or Mr. McMartin or anybody on this one, as a matter of fact, and tell us a lot more about this and what's to be expected, because this is a tremendous step forward, I think, for our community. And I'll let you do the talking. Mr. McMartin.
Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you very much for allowing us to be here this evening. The Magic Fund Screening Committee did meet, did pass on the recommendation. We're here to address that, and however we need to move forward, we would hope for ultimately an approval subject to the contract being worked out. I think it shows good faith with a couple of the other parties involved in this process. If Mr. Lakefield and your attorneys don't think that's appropriate, then we'll have to make do. This project, and you'll hear from Tim Mahalik and both MSU and Dakota School at Botno, but This particular project we see as a way to enhance workforce development. We have a lot of youth that leave the community, get trained elsewhere, get a certificate, a one-year degree, a two-year degree, and stay where they got the degree or move on from there. We see this as a chance to grow our own workforce right here in Minot. And before I take up any more time, I'll ask Mr. Mahalik to come up.
Thank you, Mr. McMartin.
Nope, I got it. I'm good.
Good evening, Mr. Mahalik.
Good evening, Mayor Sipman and council members. As stated, my name is Tim Mahalik, and I'm here tonight in my role as the chairperson of the Community Stakeholders Committee. I was appointed by Mayor Sipman to that role in July of 2018, and since that appointment, there's been a tremendous amount of work done on behalf of the city of Minot. Actually, there were 6 committees that were formed, which resulted in a delivery of a 45-page white paper to this council last fall. A number of issues were addressed during that work, one of them which we'll address tonight, and one of them which you have approved to move forward, which is the One Brand campaign, which is in motion. Obviously, I'm here tonight to discuss the need for a career and technical education center here in Minot. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those before me and those current community members for their diligence to move this project forward. I will provide a brief narrative before I turn the floor over to Dr. Shirley and Dr. Migler to discuss their vision for a CTE center as well as ours in the city of Minot. As evidenced by the copy of the minutes in the Magic Fund Screening Committee last Friday, and included, I believe, in your packet for today, there's been a tremendous amount of discussion, as I mentioned earlier, ongoing. Mayor Sipma appointed Council Member Lisa Olson to lead the Committee for Career and Technical Education Center here in Minot. And through that discussion, we've had great collaboration. We brought the city of Minot together. We brought Trinity Health, Minot State University, Dakota College of Botany, the National Disaster Resiliency Fund with Mr. Zakian, as well as MADC through John McMartin. Through the continued discussion with Trinity, they presented us a valuation of $1.1 million on the property. After back and forth discussion and negotiation, it was decided to offer Trinity their asking price and ask them to contribute back to the CTE Center $300,000 for a net price of $800,000, which we presented to and was approved by the screening committee. And as I'm sure the council is aware, HUD recently announced the city of Minot received authorization from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to use approximately $3.5 million of CDBG DR fund, NDR funds, too many letters there, to create the Center for Technical Education. And additionally, as mentioned, this committee has had discussions with a number of the foundations here in town, including Minot States Foundation, Dakota College of Botany, the St. Joe's Foundation, and the Minot Area Community Foundation. All have expressed some interest in contributing to this project as we look to move it forward. I have, and I believe Mayor Sipma has also discussed this project with Governor Burgum, and he has blessed it, gave his endorsement, and is excited about it. It certainly checks all the boxes as he thinks about the Main Street Initiative program, which is underway. I have, in my role as a member of the State Board of Higher Education, discussed this project with the Chancellor of the North Dakota University System, Mark Hagerott, as well as our legal counsel, Eric Olson, and he too, at a high level, feels this would be a great project for the city of Minot and gave their blessing. And lastly, I want to say this is a great opportunity for the city of Minot. It's something exciting for us to move forward. It'd be the beginning of a collaboration to create a CTE center. There's so much that can come out of this, the opportunity to work with Minot Public Schools and just other area surrounding schools as we look to move this whole project ahead. And I've said in the past, and I know the mayor and I have talked about this and simply stated, I believe that this project is a win for the city of Minot. And with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Shirley. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, Dr. Shirley.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Thank you very much. For the record, my name is Steve Shirley. I serve as president at Minot State University as well as Dakota College at Bottineau. Thanks for a few minutes this evening and to share a little bit about our vision. Just a couple of quick points. I think you all have a one-page kind of a white paper, an executive summary white paper of what the project looks like. This is an exciting project for Minot. It's an exciting opportunity for our community and our city to, I think, fill in a gap that we currently have. We are behind many of the other communities in the state of North Dakota. As you look at places like Grand Forks and Fargo and West Fargo and Bismarck-Mandan, Williston, those communities have ready access to 1- and 2-year degrees, 1- and 2-year programs. We have a little bit of that here in Minot, but we do not have it to the level of a full-blown center where those programs would be available. And we think that that's a loss for workforce development kinds of issues in this community. We also think it's a loss on students that leave this community and go somewhere else and don't return. The partnership between Dakota College at Bottineau and Minot State is unlike any other partnership in either of the Dakotas. There is not a branch affiliate campus type relationship like we have between MSU and DCB. And so that really allows us to basically run the gamut from 1-year certificate programs up to what we do at Minot State with master's degrees and beyond and everything in between. And so this really would allow us to take advantage of that. I want to thank this group for what you did back in, was it April or May, when you allocated $2 million additional dollars from the Gathering Space funds to put toward this project. Really will allow this project to hit the ground running and allow us to develop a state-of-the-art career and tech ed center. The last point I want to mention before I just turn it over to Jerry Megler for a few minutes is I get this question often about, well, what's in it for Minot State? These are going to be 1- and 2-year programs. These are going to be programs. These are going to be degrees that will be conferred from Dakota College at Bottineau. Minot State will be able to deliver within those curriculums, some of the curriculum, some of the programs, some of the classes, some of the general education requirements. We'll have students who will get their 1- or 2-year degree and then decide, you know what, I can do this. I'm going to move on and go toward my bachelor's degree and transfer over to Minot State. We might have a trailing boyfriend-girlfriend kind of an issue. Maybe we've got two that are coming from Stanley and they're trying to decide, one wants a 4-year degree and the other wants a 1- or 2-year. We can't offer that for them right now. Now we would be able to do that. It's really an all-of-the-above strategy as far as education is concerned. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Megler. Jerry is the campus dean at Dakota College at Bottineau. He has an extensive career path in career and technical education. I'm going to just let him explain a little bit more about what the center would look like.
Good evening, Mr. Megler.
Oh, good evening. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I'm Jerry Megler, campus dean at Dakota College at Bottineau. And I do have a slide set, if it can be pulled up. Otherwise, I'll just go ahead and, okay, thank you.
For you, sir.
Thank you very much. We thought it would be helpful to provide a little background about when we talk about career and technical education, particularly at the post-secondary level, what is it? And essentially, post-secondary career and technical education are programs that are designed to prepare people for what I call the frontline workforce. They're programs that require more education than one would typically receive at the high school level, but less than a baccalaureate degree. Some good examples are nursing programs. We have strong nursing programs at Dakota College at Bottineau around the state. Our practical nursing program, our associate degree nursing program are really good examples of post-secondary career and technical education. There are pathways to go to the 4-year degree, but essentially with the practical nursing program, it's a 1-year curriculum, and then you can go into the workforce. If you build on that with a career ladder approach, adding another year, many of our students will get their RN, associate degree nursing licensure, and then they can go to the workforce. There's been a pretty significant change in the workforce, I would say, over the course of the last 30 and 40 years. And I will use the examples of automotive technicians, dental hygiene, those types of things as an example. I shared with the MADC on Friday. I can recall, because it's been a few years since I was in high school, that when I graduated, I had friends that were able to go to work directly at the Ford dealership or the John Deere dealership. And those dealerships would provide them with the training so they could kind of develop and enter the workforce right out of high school. That's changed. I will share with you with my background in technical education at State College of Science in Wahpeton, at Minnesota State Community and Technical College in Moorhead. When dealers right now are looking to hire graduates to become technicians for a diesel position or an automotive position, they require almost invariably some type of post-secondary education. As a matter of fact, companies like John Deere, Case IH have developed their own programs for students out of high school to go in and receive that additional training. It has become so technical. There were even times I can recall that even in dental assisting, that you could go to work, and right now dentists are looking for people that have had some post-secondary training. So it's changed, and where is post-secondary community or career and technical education typically being offered? It's at community colleges and technical colleges. And again, I'll come back to the need. There's a statistic that's been around, I would say probably for the last 10 to 15 years. It comes from the Department of Labor, and it was projecting into the future, and that future is now 2020, in which it was estimated, and it's actually bearing a lot of validity, that 65% of the jobs in the United States require some type of post-secondary education. Now that includes bachelor's degrees, but it also includes short-term certificates. So we have rapidly changed to a point where that additional education has become almost a necessity. And let's see here. There we go. What I'm going to share with you in this next slide is based on my experience. I have been an administrator for career and technical programs at the State College of Science in the Minnesota system. And prior to coming back to North Dakota, I was involved in the Colorado system, where my office was responsible for career and technical education, not only throughout the community colleges, but also at the high school level as well. So these are my observations, and I think they really hold true. Number one, communities that have access are able to help retain their talent resources. More practically, I can tell you when I was an administrator at career and technical education at the State College of Science, I saw firsthand what happened, because when you have that base, people come in and recruit, or if you bring students in from elsewhere, you may not get them back. And I recall the experience where companies would come in and they would hire half of our electrical program and take them to out of state to a large city, and we wouldn't get a lot of those students coming back. More practically, I would see where students would come from the western part of the state and they would get an internship at a dealership in Fargo or perhaps in the Twin Cities. And even though they really wanted to go back to their home community, whether it be Minot, Stanley, Garrison, chances are they weren't going to come back. So, and also on the same token, I would see when we had students that were local and they were able to, they were trained locally, they had more, I guess, of an opportunity and commitment to stay. So I really believe this because I've seen it. And one of the things that we're looking at is that if we can educate students here, they're more likely to stay here and become part of the local workforce. I will grant you it's more efficient, perhaps, to have one place where you send people and they get all the training. But the reality is if they don't come back, we have to ask the question, has that really helped us? And right now in the trades areas, in technical education in general, there's a crying need for these skilled folks. It helps in the recruitment and retention of businesses. I saw that again at the other institutions where I've been, where we had the programs and the local economic development folks would be working with the business either to help it grow or to bring in new businesses, and they would invite us to talk about our programs. And I think that was a factor in helping some of these businesses make decisions. Do I expand my workforce here, or do I relocate my business here? And having access to that training is a vital component. I would say indirectly, when you think about that, if somebody asks me what kinds of jobs can this guarantee, I don't know that I can guarantee that, but what I can say is that there's definitely an indirect connection, because if you have the center there, as businesses have the opportunity to expand or bring new businesses in, there will be jobs that will be created or maintained because of having access to the training. And the last two items I would share with you is that business needs change, technology changes, and having access to the training that's provided by a center like this can also help with employees that are already in the business, and you'd have a center for retraining and upskilling. Dr. Shirley has already talked about where post-secondary career and technical education programs are located. Some of the other communities have taken steps recently to address some of those needs. I'll specifically reference Dickinson, where they have expanded the mission from Dickinson State University so that they can meet that technical education need. And again, out of the 10 largest cities, Minot figures prominently in that list without having access to that. I want you to know that we're not starting at ground zero. We already have a strong, we have a base, but there's tremendous opportunity to grow this. We have history and experience in career and technical education. A lot of folks don't tend to think about that because they will automatically think of schools like Wahpeton or Bismarck, where they have the trades. As I've said, that it's a lot more expansive than that. So we already have nursing program. We have experience in how to grow programs. We've doubled the nursing program since we've been in Minot in the last 5 years, up to about 50 students just in nursing. We've added diagnostic medical sonography. We have a paramedic technology partnership. So these are programs that are already in place, primarily at Trinity Health. Dr. Shirley referenced the partnership. We have IT, computer technology, business, medical assistant. We have some new programs under development. I just tossed those out as an example that we're moving ahead. We would see more conversations about what are the programs that would be required as the center moves towards kind of, let's put some more specific plans in place. Collaboration is there. We have a good connection with Minot schools. I would say that's one of the gems in Minot are the programs that are already in place. There are good opportunities to start forging some additional partnerships. Essentially where we're at right now, there's a lot of opportunity. But having the center is critical because I think we need that foundation. We need that base to build. It gives us the visibility, and it starts launching us on a path so we can start more effectively meeting the needs that are there. I really believe that if we can get this up and running, it may take us 5 years to do that, but I could see several hundred students. And as Dr. Shirley said, we've had the conversation. This is not us, we're not competing against each other, it's really complementary. Again, I go back to my experience in Moorhead. I can remember visiting with a student in our electrical program. I said, what brought you here? He said, well, I have a friend that's going to school in electrical engineering at NDSU. And I thought, well, I want to be an electrician, so we'll just get an apartment. I think it has an opportunity to grow. And I think it'll be a synergy that actually helps both institutions. So essentially, that's where we are. I feel my background for a long, long time has been in career and technical education. When the information I'm sharing with you is not what I think. I really believe this can happen just based on my experiences at other institutions and at other communities. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you for supporting, and I'll certainly stand for any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, Dean Midler. Any questions at this time? Thank you, sir. And I do want to take an opportunity before here just to say thank you to Mr. Mahalik, of course, Dr. Fuller here and Dean Midler, Alderwoman Olson have spent a significant amount of time. There's been a lot of other people, Minot Public School, that have put in time on this to get it from where it was even a couple of years ago to where it is now. The IEDC process kind of outlined this, and fast forward, it's been a long road and a lot of hard work, and I can't say thank you enough for all of that that has gone into this. And I know there's more people that have contributed to this as well from the state side and local as well, but it has been significant amount of work. And this is going to be something, I think, very profound for the city of Minot, for the region, as many of the points that Dean Midler had pointed out, as we're one of the only bigger communities in North Dakota that doesn't have that CTE program, and the compounding effect that has throughout the region. And given the nature of where we're at with those trades, it's long overdue. So thank you to each and every one of you for the hard work. Mr. Lakefield, you had a question?
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make it clear that, there's a lot of support for this project and everyone is working to keep that momentum moving and keep the project moving forward. There's still a lot of work left to do and the Magic Fund guidelines are very specific on the process that we go through to bring this back for council approval. And we need to go through that process to make sure that everything is complete and we address any questions that there might be. And we'll work diligently to go through that work and as expediently as possible, but we want to have a good product at the end of the day as well.
Any further questions? Alderwoman Olsen.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank all of the people that have been involved in this. This is collaboration at its best, and it makes Minot shine, so I am proud to be part of it, and I am confident that city staff will get the contract to us as quickly as possible, and I certainly will hound them if they don't. So we'll be talking about this again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alderwoman Olsen. Any further discussion on this item? Thank you again, each and every one of you. That is it for on our actionable items. That takes us to number 6. This is our personal appearances. This is the portion where we have open for the public to come forward and speak on any item that is or is not on our agenda. I will outline a couple of items here before we get into this. I'm going to ask that you state your full name and that you write down your address for the record up here. That is a change from last time. And lastly, also state that if you are a citizen of Minot. I would also ask that you are to address the council, not to any member of the audience. And then also be respectful. No foul language will be tolerated. We have a 5-minute limit on personal appearances for each individual. At the 4-minute mark, I will give you the 1-minute sign and then hold up my hand as time expires. And lastly, there's going to be no background commentary. If there is, I will give you a warning. And if it continues, I'm going to ask you to leave. So with that, I would ask that you come forward and state your name and then write your address, and then if you're a citizen of Minot, wherever.
Hello, Pastor Jeff Hoverson, Minot. Would it be okay if I passed out? Mine's pretty brief. Can I hand this out to you guys? Hello, my name is Jeff Hoverson, pastor at Living Word Minot. I'm here not to attack anybody, you or anybody else. I, as well as our church, are perfectly capable of loving people that the flag represents, as evidenced by 2 women in a sexual relationship who attend our church regularly for 2 years before they moved. Why? Because they felt loved. I'm here to offer what I perceive as a very needed perspective of truth that goes deeper. I'm not even really here to refer to the flag. That's a very symptomatic small issue in my mind. I am mostly here as a pastor just to give one aspect of God that addresses the agenda that the mayor spoke of and the issue that Alderwoman Lisa Olsen also spoke of. Those issues are the use and misunderstanding of the concept of discrimination by the city, as well as judgment. So if you would just allow me to elaborate on that, because the source of this is God, whether we want to admit that or not. It's the only place that you find this addressed, and that's why it's a church issue. So again, I'm not out looking to step in your arena, Mayor. I'm just suggesting that our arena has been stepped into, and that is why I feel that we need to be here. So, God provides sexual boundaries for us all equally, whether it be fornication before marriage, adultery outside of marriage, intercourse with more than one person, or this issue at hand, which is spelled out in Romans 1:24 through 26. Therefore, God gave them up in the lusts of their hearts to impurity, to the dishonoring of their bodies among themselves, because they exchanged the truth about God for a lie and worshiped and served the creature rather than the Creator, who is blessed forever. Amen. For this reason, God gave them up to dishonorable passions, for the women exchanged natural relations for those who are contrary to nature. So that's God's word. Back to my writings. That is a boundary. Churches and denominations who disagree are plenty, but they're not offering another interpretation. They're simply ignoring this boundary. Why does God give us boundaries? All of us live with boundaries and limitations every day. I do too. My attractions don't have to become my identity. I just met with a guy last night for an hour who has left the chosen lifestyle for an identity in Christ, and he feels very loved. Is it because God is a bigot? Is it because God hates us? No. When we're confronted with a boundary or a limitation, it is because he loves us. So these boundaries are his love keeping us according to his design as the one who made us. And I don't want to be the one to say otherwise. I don't think you do either. So when any city council or mayor looks at this boundary and calls it hate or oppressive or bigoted or discriminatory or judgmental, etc., I would say they're calling God a bigot. So I'm asking that when you are contributing to an agenda for any special interest group that involves God's boundaries, again, that does overlap into our turf as a church. You are inadvertently, not on purpose, but inadvertently suggesting to the community that we are not supposed to agree with God. The people of Minot are not hating you. They are simply agreeing with God's loving boundaries and wanting to live and act accordingly. Is that time up?
It's 1 minute.
Okay. So again, I'm not here to step in your arena. Finally, you asked, Mayor, are we supposed to then bring the punishments of the Old Testament back? And I would say no, because Jesus Christ took the punishment for us already that we deserve for stepping outside the boundaries. He did not change the boundary. It remains because that is how we are designed, and those boundaries represent not hate, but rather love. If anyone is in need of comfort, only God can love and heal you. The world cannot. The government cannot. Only God can, and he says he wants to. Thank you.
Some suggestions.
If you would come to the podium first and then...
Leif Snyder, 701 9th Avenue Northeast. My suggestions aren't that long, it's just a bunch of information. There's also a copy for the clerk. I am making the following recommendations to address the problems I have found regarding the Human Resources Department at Minot City Hall. We're all familiar around March and April what kind of happened. Many in this room are aware I've made several records requests, and I think the citizens of Minot deserve better. Recommendation number 1, make the employee manual or handbook available as a link, just as the City Council handbook. There's 2 different ones, a lot of people don't know that. Make that available as a link on the city website. Why should citizens have to make a records request to see the employee manual when city employees work for the citizens of Minot? Number 2, address the lack of policy regarding city-paid cell phones being set to auto-delete. Would you allow city department heads to have their computers set to auto-delete? Number 3, hold all city employees accountable to policy, state and local laws. One response to a request I got was, I do not intend to provide info off of that unless legally subpoenaed. Dan Johnson, Public Works Director. In Patricia Munson's own report on page 10, she said, 2 city employees addressed the council stating the employees do not use the formal reporting process because it doesn't work. Surely you would have to agree farming the city hall's HR policy out to a political blogger is a huge problem. Yet the city hall did just that. Recommendation number 4, hire a professional outside firm or expert to evaluate and investigate HR policy and personnel. And here's why. If you want to turn to the blue tab, some of the records requests I've provided include city department heads having discussions and text messages regarding Patricia Munson's investigative report. The following message between David Lakefield, Lisa Junt, Lance Meyer, Dan Johnson, and Kevin Turnus, and they haven't even heard the home run slugger yet, the CHO. I have no idea what that is. Lisa Junt, the HR director, she needed to see Tammy and I cry. We knocked it out of the park, exclamation point. This is the city's HR director. Recommendation number 5. Include yourself as a council member in any HR investigation, training, or recommendation made by outside firms or experts. I think you know why. 2 months ago, I submitted to many of you what I perceive to be misconduct on behalf of 2 city council members who are not sitting at this dais right now. But if you're going to be somebody's boss, in which I fully agree the flow chart of responsibility should be changed. It can't all just funnel through one person, the city manager. But then elected officials can't be betting beers on which city employees are going to be fired. This is all stuff recovered through simple records requests. I just think the city of Minot deserves better.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. Any questions?
This kind of relates to what Mr. Snyder said.
If you could, for the record as well.
My name is Chad Chalmers, 1304 Valley View Drive. I am a citizen of Minot. So one of the most egregious things that we came across was in a text message between Dan, Jonas, and Lisa. Dave, hey Dave, how's it going? Last time I saw Dave, we were playing up at the A-frame and we did a wedding. He came out both nights, stayed to the end of the night. Thanks, Dave. I just want to thank you for that. So, and then also Kevin Turnus. And at the time, Kevin Turnus wasn't even working for the city of Minot. He was in a text exchange with these guys and discussing the investigation that Patricia Munson was doing. And in that, he put, and they haven't even heard from the home run slugger yet, the CHO. I don't know who the CHO is, and I don't know what the home run slugger would be. But Lisa Junt replied, she needed to see Tammy and I cry. We knocked it out of the park. If you're an applicant to become the city manager of Minot, and you're watching the live stream right now, and you see that phrase from your current HR director, that she knocked it out of the park by crying. Mr. Padragula, Alderman Padragula, I mean, in your line of work, if somebody testifies on something and then they say they knocked it out of the park, does that mean that they're being truthful? I guess that'd be the question I'd ask you. So what I'm asking is, we have had a tough time trying to get records requests. I would like a Verizon data dump on the employees that are involved, at least with this text message. The Verizon data dump doesn't allow for anybody to delete their phones. If you get a data dump directly from Verizon, it goes back 9 months, gives all the text messages from those people. All I ask is that you do the responsible thing, do a Verizon data dump, and then disperse that amongst the city council people so you can know what kind of people you have working for you. And I certainly don't think you want to have people that are up for being city manager to know about this, to be part of this, and then to become the city manager, which would replace the person that got fired. I don't think that's somewhere where Minot wants to be. I don't think they want to be seen as that type of, I think they want to be more open. That would be just my opinion. Have a great day.
Name for the record, and if you would, your address written down, and then your city of residence.
Sure. Ben Easling, and I'm from Montreal County, but I'm elder and a minister over at Trinity Evangelical Free Church here in Minot. So we have a church that gathers. We have around 100 different members that come to gather at Trinity from week to week. And so just wanted to briefly speak in regards to the disappointment of seeing the LGBTQ A+ flag that was on the building here in Minot. And we pledged allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. That's one nation under God. And the beauty of being an American is that we are under God. And morality has to come from somewhere. And the law of God is perfect. It even converts our souls. And sin, with Adam and Eve, one of the things we were blessed by God was to be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth. And that blessing that's been given can strengthen our communities. Sin is a problem we all have. Nothing perfect comes from a corrupted human being. The soul that sins, it will die. So we die spiritually because of our own sin. And until we're made alive, we battle against all kinds of sin in our community, whether it's drunkenness, fornication, adultery, theft, all kinds of violence, murder, all those things. And Scripture says that we're slaves to sin. Our society can't stop sinning apart from something incredible that happens that converts our soul. And we as Christians believe in our faith that comes from God, that converting of the soul, that redemption, that being born again as a new creature that has new desires comes from God. So the flag that was posted on here in Minot, we don't view it as something that really unites our community. We desire to see anyone that is caught in sin to be able to come to freedom from sin, regardless of what it is. God is a judge, and so just as I will stand before God as a judge, each one of you will stand before God as a judge. And we have that. We've seen the atrocities that have been made from every society that denies that we all answer to God. During the Civil War, it was put on our coins, "In God we trust." That became our motto in the 1950s. And it was during a time when there was a battle with the communist ideals that we battled both, and Nazi regimes, both in World War I and World War II. Any society that denies morality coming from God ends up justifying all sorts of sin. And so when we justify any kind of sin, we will go to all kinds of places in our society. And so if we just allow for sin of homosexuality, sin of drunkenness, sin of adultery, all these, we are permissive and just look the other way for these sorts of sins, over time our nation decays, our society decays, and we'll justify anything. We'll justify pedophilia. We'll justify, if we say, hey, my parents sinned, was born young and had a desire. If someone were to say this, we can justify having an attitude of murder. I mean, we hear kids these days will yell all kinds of expletives at a very young age with hatred or whatever. And we as a society are called to by God to come to His law, come to His word, and without us recognizing that that's who we answer to, we'll justify all kinds of morality, that we'll just continue to dismantle the morals that have blessed this culture for several hundred years. So first of all, I want to thank you all for having this forum. I do want to be a part of de-escalation of things that lead to decay in the society. But the flag, the LGBTQ flag, doesn't unite us, and I just want to be a voice for that in the community here and have it continue to be what we're all blessed by today. So thank you for the chance to speak.
Your name for the record, sir.
Mike Huff,
1025 5th Street Southwest, citizen of Minot. I'll fill this out over here instead of wasting time. I want to express my sincere gratitude to Steve and Lisa for the time and courtesy they took to reply to my email message. Please listen carefully to these concerns. The council is considering placing a flagpole to allow certain approved flags to be flown. Such as I think it's a good idea for Minot to, by honoring the police department, to fly the law enforcement flag. Perhaps you should consider 2 flagpoles to display 2 different flags at the same time. Like last Friday, it was the POW MIA Recognition Day, and it was also the start of Rosh Hashanah. So maybe we would fly the POW MIA and the Jewish flag. Or maybe 5 flagpoles to display the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard during Armed Forces Day. When selecting which flags this city approves, then please do your homework and study the history and meaning and purpose of each flag and the impact of your decision. And who will pay for these flags to be displayed? Because many people dislike and find some flags offensive, like Old Glory, the American flag, which today some are burning and tramping on and discrediting in our American cities. And the rainbow-colored flag for gay pride. And the Stars and Bars Confederate flag, which is Southern pride and has a purpose and a place in our American history, which many people like myself are passionate about. The memorial of the Confederate soldiers who died in the Civil War. Many southern states have designed and patterned their state flags after the Confederate Dixie flag. Many people don't understand the true meaning and history of this flag, and they consider it offensive. I'll bet you didn't know that the first American flag carried by George Washington and his men during the Revolutionary War against the British was the yellow Gadsden flag, which has a rattlesnake cut and separated into 13 pieces, representing the original 13 colonies. As very well that this could have been our nation's flag. And I noticed at the Scandinavian Heritage Park, there's 5 flags from different Scandinavian countries: Sweden and Norway, Finland and Denmark and Iceland. And we celebrate this at the Husfest. Another instance is Chicago celebrates St. Patrick's Day with a parade and dyeing the river green and displaying the Irish and the Shamrock flag. Another instance is New York. It's the National Latin American Puerto Rico Parade. They fly the Puerto Rican flag. They're very proud of that. And the New York African American Day Parade flag. Many people are proud and passionate about their states, countries, where they were born, raised, and lived. And they want to celebrate the inauguration and the annex dates of those states and countries which they came from. Also, what about the NFL football teams, Minnesota Vikings and Green Bay Packers? And don't forget America's favorite NFL team, Dallas Cowboys. If you don't use your bias and personal views in selecting what type of flags qualify and display. And at last, anytime a country has overtaken another country and they've been the victors, what's the first thing they do? They raise the flag. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sabrina Herman, and I live at 621 Lake Street in Minot, North Dakota. And the reason this lovely lady is joining me is she is my daughter, and I'd love to yield about a minute of my time to her. She is a North Dakota resident, and until she went to college, she resides, her permanent address is my address. The only one comment I will make is I'm really saddened by the display of anger that we had last week, because I feel there are a lot of people in our community that are talented, experienced, educated, and they leave our community. And I, for one, am just really tired of that. And a lot of it is based on people not being accepted for who they are. And my daughter did drive here for 14 hours just to address you today, so I would love her to have that opportunity to read her statement.
Hello.
Name for the record, too, please.
Hi, my name is Riley Helt. I lived in the Valley of Minot until I moved 4 years ago to attend the UMN Twin Cities. I'm here today to express my grievances over the commentary surrounding the pride flag being hung in the front of City Hall. I would first like to thank Magic City Equality for their proposal to have the pride flag flown, and to Councilwoman Evans for supporting this proposal and maintaining incredible composure under the extreme homophobia she's been faced with. You are someone whose bravery and courage with themselves and their sexuality does not go unnoticed. I would also like to extend a thanks to Mayor Sitma. Just being an ally in this conservative community can get you a lot of heat. I appreciate your willingness to stand for what is right and just, even in the face of bigotry. I was born and raised in Minot, someone who enjoyed the small town and its residents, but as I developed into an adult, I realized that not everyone here will be kind and accepting of differences. I moved away to go to school elsewhere, mostly due to that discomfort surrounding diversity, among other things. I felt so emboldened by the commentary I witnessed last week that I drove over 14 hours round trip to get home to address these residents. Not only as an openly gay woman, but as a born and raised citizen of Minot, I was deeply disappointed by the homophobic display put on by citizens at last week's meeting. You all seem to keep referencing the American flag and how it stands for all, yet spewing hate about the gay members under that flag. According to a 2011 UCLA study, there are over 8 million gay people in the United States. Whether you can see or acknowledge us, we exist under the same flag that you do. We are just as representative of the American flag and worthy of respect as straight people are. The hateful comments of "this is so embarrassing" and "I'm disgusted" are vile. The cherry-picked Bible quotes, alleged level of godliness we should uphold, and God finds this flag to be an abomination is laughable. I don't even consider myself a Christian, but even I know the founding principle of Christianity is to love your neighbor as yourself. Real Christians love everyone for who they are and aren't afraid of a piece of fabric that helps include all of God's children. I think that your own God would be incredibly disappointed in that intolerance shown. This type of speech is not voicing a concern, it is hate speech. When your views result in the suffering of another human being, they are no longer personal views. They are moral choices, choices to hate a group of people for being who they are. There's been some idea that these freedoms are being taken away by the representation of the pride flag, but what exactly is being taken away? What freedoms are you being stripped of? I know that as a gay member of society, I'm constantly fighting for the human right to exist. If you want to discuss freedoms being taken away, homosexuals are not allowed to adopt children under a bill attempting to be passed, number 19123. In 33 states, it is still permissible to deny Medicare and housing for gay individuals, and you can even be fired for your sexuality in any non-public job position in 28 states. Conversion therapy, a form of torture to cure people of homosexuality, is still completely legal in 29 states and endorsed by the vice president. There are 72 countries where being homosexual is punishable by the law, and 11 where it is punishable by death, as stated by the Human Rights Campaign. That's what having freedom taken away looks like. This all started as a debate over a piece of fabric that helps marginalized members in your very own community, they're right behind me, feel supported. And what it really brought out is the very serious issue here with homophobia. One of the men was quoted last week saying he felt he was trying to be threatened and intimidated by this flag. Well, the real threats are the homophobic slurs and hate crimes that happen to the LGBTQIA community every day. I fear for those living in a place where you don't know the next time you could be called a dyke, a faggot, or even worse, for simply being alive. Imagine a world where your very own existence is being constantly questioned by members of your own community. This experience of violent discomfort, name-calling, and abuse in Minot as a queer person is something that many of the LGBTQ members here can attest to as well. What seems to be the overarching issue here is not the flag, but the root of homophobia, fear. People fear what they do not know or understand, and there is a lot of miseducation around the LGBTQ community, who they are, and what they stand for here. There is no version of the LGBTQIA community that supports pedophilia in any way. This is simply untrue and a rhetoric used by bigots all around the world to undermine the existence of valid LGBTQ identities. The gay community is not some sort of evil boogeyman you paint us out to be. We are a loving, caring community based in support, acceptance, and understanding. We simply want to love and be loved, just like you do. To those who have spread hate, misinformation, and slander of the gay community before or after the hanging of this flag, shame on you. To those who are supporting the hanging of the flag as well as the gay community, thank you. We will continue to need that support as long as homophobia is alive and well in Minot and elsewhere. To my gay community in Minot, you are strong and resilient. I love you all. We will not be bullied, we will not stay quiet, and we will not go away. Thank you for your time.
Name for the record and city.
Jordan Ladisser, Minot, North Dakota. Good evening, Mayor Sidma and members of the council. My name is Jordan Ladisser, and I am one of 4 co-executive directors of Magic City Equality, one of 8 of the board in total. Not only am I a part of Magic City Equality, but I'm also a board member for the North Dakota Human Rights Coalition. I am here today to speak on behalf of our board, our brothers and sisters, the LGBTQ2+ community, that is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and/or questioning, Two-Spirit community, as well as myself. We want to thank you, before I start, we want to thank you for the pride flag raising ceremony. We will be forever grateful for this historic moment here in Minot, North Dakota. As an openly gay male and an Indigenous person, I can say we have all experienced, in our own individual shared way, what it means to be treated less than human. The history that we, Indigenous people, continue to face daily reminders of our land stolen, our slaughtered people, our exposure to disease and toxins, as well as our children taken away from our homes and forced into faith-based institutions such as the Catholic Church, in an attempt to conquer and to control us. We've had to endure dehumanizing federal policies that threatened us like misbehaving children, as if we were unable to live responsibly or make decisions for ourselves, as if we did not have the right to be treated as equals and/or as fully humans. This brings me to my point as an openly gay, Indigenous, two-spirited person. I grew up knowing that I was different, hearing the other kids call anyone who deviated from the traditional gender expectations a fag, and being called one myself throughout my adolescence, even to this day. I hadn't come out to anyone and didn't even really understand what it meant, but I knew that it was an insult. I, like many others, at an early age, we had to learn, that is, at best, that we were different, and it was the different to be under the LGBTQ2S+. And many of us are and were taught that this difference is shameful, deviant, and disgusting. We might try to hide it or even wish it away, like I did. I prayed every night, every single night, to pray the gay away. Didn't work. As we, including myself, were taught by the religious faith, we learned that even if our own family accepts us, there are still some relatives that might not, community members that might not, and we are asked to hide of who we are. So we would make people comfortable. This has taught us shame. While I know who I am today, I was not fortunate to grow up with privilege compared to my white heterosexual peers. I have been called names. I have been physically attacked. I have been raped and discriminated against for who I am and for who I love. Others have stories far worse than mine, far worse than mine. Countless LGBTQ2S people could tell stories like mine, rooted in the legacy of discrimination and bigotry that have made us feel ashamed of who we are. We hear about the LGBTQ2S people who have been physically attacked like myself, or even killed for who they are. This teaches fear. I have been told countless times to hide a part of who I am because others may not accept me for who I love, but today I stand here telling the community, telling you, as well as the people who do not approve of my lifestyle, I will no longer be silenced. I, like many of us, have found the pride and hope in the community that loves me and makes me feel welcome here. During the September 8th Minot City Council meeting, some area citizens expressed damaging views towards the members of the LGBTQ2+ community and the rainbow flag raising. Some shared disrespect towards the Minot City Council, especially Alderwoman Evans and Mayor Sepma. While we have the right to our opinion, their opinion on this matter was masked by their concerns for a flag rather than their true intentions. Hate speech, full of discrimination and bigotry towards the LGBTQ2+ community, and the attempts, once again, to instill fear into us. Many of you may not be aware, but members of the Magic City Equality received a death threat, which is under investigation and to the reason why we are not present at the last public meeting. Yet again, we were allowed for these people to install fear into our mission. The LGBTQ2+ community has faced hate and fear, and we will no longer be discouraged for standing up. We will not allow the threat to determine our value and to our promise to our LGBTQ+ community. Far too long, the LGBTQ2+ voices have not been equally heard, seen, or recognized under this, and that stops now. People have mastered discrimination with cries of civil rights to suppress women, disadvantaged, people of color, people with disabilities, immigrants, gay men, lesbian, bisexual, transgender people, and intersexual people for those who have the category of other. These oppressors will no longer speak for us. Rather than we will speak for ourselves and finally make changes and progress for everyone in our community. This discrimination views no longer is representation of our community. Thank you, Council.
This again is an opportunity for anyone to come forward. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see.
Hi, my name is Aubrey Flory. I am nervous because I don't normally speak in front of people, but I felt the need. We don't live in Minot, but we felt the need to come up here. I heard a lot of people talk. I heard a lot of people say the hate, the anger, the frustration, the bigotry, all that went on last meeting. I watched the meeting. I saw frustration. Like, this flag was going up and no one knew. No one knew. There was frustration because, yes, we have a flag that stands right here and stands out there that unites us all. Unites us all. That we fly in remembrance for the men and women that fought for our rights. Fought for our rights. We stand underneath the North Dakota flag because we live in North Dakota. To compare the rainbow flag, or whatever it's called, I'm sorry, to the POW. POW isn't even a special entrance. POW are the men and women that fought for us, got imprisoned for us. It cannot even be on the same level as that. I am sorry, I understand everyone has their different way of living. And we're not, Jesus said, love the sinner, hate the sin. That's all we were doing. We love them. We don't like the lifestyle they're living in, and they have a way to change, and that is through Jesus. That's the only way. But we weren't standing up there, or they weren't standing up there with hate, saying, we hate you, we hate your lifestyle. They just didn't feel the need to put a flag on when it didn't equalize everyone like the United States flag did. The only hate, like I told my husband, I go, that was, just the hatred came out was when Miss Evans spoke. That was the only time. That was the only time that I saw where it was like, I understand we all have our passionate views. I do. But it's where we have to understand that flag doesn't unite us. We put up the POW flag because we have to remember those men and women that some died in captivity. Some died and some are still in captivity. And we need to understand that we cannot have, either we just fly the American flag and the North Dakota flag and be done with it. And just have it that way. Because there's so many flags that can start coming out that where does it end? I mean, it just is where I think if it had been taken a different measure of coming, brought to the public first, and yes, like I said, I don't live in Minot. I don't. But I am a proud North Dakotan. But I don't want to see this infiltrate all of North Dakota. Like I said, Jesus said, love the sinner, hate the sin. I love everyone. And I hope and pray that they would turn to Jesus and to accept him because he could turn them. Like that man said before, he prayed and prayed and prayed. There is where, yes, Jesus is the way. Jesus would help it. But putting up a flag that doesn't equal us all doesn't help anything. It just caused division. But the main thing is, I wanted to point out there was no hate from the people last week. What I saw was concern. That's it, concern. And yes, they may have gotten a little fired up, but that's it. So thank you for your time.
Name for the record, please.
Sandra Sanders, and I live in Minot. I'm not here because I hate a group, don't hate a group. I'm here because I really feel that there's no flag that should be flown over a city, state, national government outside of that city, state, national that they're a part of. Government is here to protect the people and to deal with the lawbreakers. It's not here to take individual stands. Where would you stop? Myself, I'm how many nationalities, I'm of the faith I'm of. We could all, every one of us, insist that we're represented. And I believe, just like, well, somebody stated way in the Facebook, that flag covers all of us. It's there for all of us, to protect all of us, both in our civil law, in our, in our civil law. And I don't think that we should be putting any other identity, entity, I don't care what color, creed, sexual lifestyle, none of that should be a part of what our government is here for. And that's just my thinking. But I really believe that, because I really believe that the government is here, and I think the Constitution backs this up. It's here to protect us and to punish those who are outside of the law. And that is what you're here for. Not to make any of these other stands, not to separate the people, and that's what it does, because we know there are issues out there. So why go out of our way to make those issues bigger? And I think that's what happened. I don't hate the people that flag represents. I don't necessarily agree with what they do, but I don't hate them. I've had personal relationships, friendships, and because of their lifestyle, that didn't keep me from caring about them and wanting to spend time with them. But I don't like to see an entity of the government, which is a city, state, whatever, do anything that causes more division in this country than we're already seeing. I think we've got enough to deal with. Thank you.
If you want to start, we can just have you sign in after.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, City Council, my name is Shane McLaughlin. I live on Terrace Drive. And this is a good portion to step in. As the U.S. flag represents the citizens of this great nation, it also represents the ideas of our founding fathers who fought and died for the opportunity for our liberty and for equality in pursuit of happiness. And the First Amendment guarantees the freedom of religion, and in their minds, the Christian religion and the practice thereof. And that government should not hinder nor promote one religion over another. We also see the freedom of speech and of press, et cetera, in that First Amendment, and that's what many felt was under attack with the raising of the gay pride flag. The North Dakota flag also represents the citizens of this great state and has at times struggles with our differences, but yet it still flies over us all. And this state flag also stands for the values of the people who have settled here, suffered here, and persevered. Values such as hard work ethic, kindness, as you mentioned last time, Mayor, as well as conservative values, especially financially so, and the importance of their Christian faith. And sadly, many of these values are being stripped around our country and are being challenged here in our state, which also causes many people who appreciate these values to be concerned. In the same way, the rainbow flag represents some of the citizens here in our community of the LGBTQ plus S2S and so on, which in reality is a majority of the people in this community. But the flag also represents behaviors and practices that not only God has called immoral, but has proven harmful to the human body. And that is what I would like to address. I did some research and found that the state of STDs among behaviors and practices associated with this flag are quite alarming. The number of cases of STDs in this country are so large that many in our public school systems no longer teach a sexual risk avoidance, but a sexual risk reduction. And that curriculum assumes that those children will receive an STD at some point in their life, of their sexual life. I found on the CDC website, and I have copies of that here if you're interested, that 83% of the new syphilis cases reported in 2014 were by men having sex with men. Those numbers did not change that much through the years. In fact, in 2017, nearly 80% of the new syphilis cases, according to the CDC website, said that these were men having sex with men. As we look at this, and we see the relatively small percentage of the population who expresses themselves sexually in that manner, and yet have the vast majority of especially that one STD should tell us something. We should not be blind to these issues. Although the rates of other STDs such as gonorrhea, genital warts, herpes, hepatitis, HIV, and BV are just beginning to be tracked according to the people's sexual orientation, studies are becoming more and more aware of those connections. I also have found that the papillomavirus, the PHV, I didn't pronounce that right, excuse me, that virus that causes cervical cancer is stated as the #1 STD in our nation today. And that is highly infectious and spreading rapidly and affecting the sexual and reproductive health of our children. Now, these STDs are not exclusive to the LGBTQ community, but the numbers reveal much higher risks and the consequences associated with them. And so by flying this flag, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you intentionally did that or not, and I'm not trying to say one way or the other, but it is telling this community that those kind of behaviors and practices are good. And that is a lie. It is a lie. It is harmful to the human body. And that is one thing that people need to remember and understand with this. And in closing, I would just ask, how many STDs are associated with biblical chastity? That's a good question to ask, isn't it? And it shows the contrast, because there is a way that is good, that does not harm the human body, which God has intended us, in which we were designed. Thank you.
Mayor Sitma, members of the City Council, Councilwoman Evans, thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Sean Ann Tangney, and I live here in Minot, North Dakota. I didn't grow up here. I grew up in California, and California will always be a big part of who I am. I moved to Minot in 1997, 23 years ago. I'll tell you, I'm as surprised as anyone sometimes that I'm still here, but I will tell you this as well. After 23 years of living and working and building and rebuilding a home and a life here, this is my home. Minot, North Dakota is my hometown. And this has been a tough couple of weeks for my hometown. I want to say to Mayor Sitma, who I have known for a long time and with whom I do not always agree, that I respect and admire the stance you have taken over the past few weeks. I want to say to Councilwoman Evans that no one should have to take the abuse and vitriol that you've taken over the past few weeks, and that your courage and stamina have been heroic. I know the past few weeks have been difficult and painful for many people in my hometown, and I know that many of you are hurting and demoralized and exhausted. But I want to tell you this. This is a good day. When I came here 23 years ago, this would not have happened. 23 years ago, there would have been no Councilwoman Evans. There would have been no pride flag flying over City Hall. None of this. This conversation would not have happened. Controversy can be unsettling, distressing, even traumatic, but it is surely a sign of progress. If Oscar Wilde is right, and true progress is to know more and be more and to do more, then we made a lot of progress in the past few weeks in my hometown. And so I just want to take the opportunity this evening to remind you all that this is a good day. I'm proud of you, Minot, and I expect you to keep making me proud. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Danita Magnuson. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address the council. I want to start off by making myself clear in case there's any confusion on where I stand regarding the hanging of flags for special interest groups, organizations, or one's agenda. I know that the NRA flag was scheduled to fly this week. because it was previously added. But I wanted you to know that I didn't agree with this either. I'm a proud supporting member of the NRA. I also support the Second Amendment. But just because I support them does not mean that I think I have to have a special representation at City Hall. Please note that just because I have a difference of opinion, it doesn't constitute hate. It's simply just a difference of opinion. I'll repeat my stance. The American flag represents each and every one of us. I'm glad to hear that there is a moratorium on flags going forward. As for any flags that have flown previously, shame on me for not paying attention to what's going on at City Hall. From this day forward, I am paying attention. And for that, I thank you. It's my understanding that every elected and appointed official receives a Minot City Council handbook. Is that correct?
That is correct.
At the end of this handbook, it states, I affirm that I have read, understand, and agree to abide by the Minot City Code of Ethics and Conduct for elected and appointed officials. And then each one of you have signed this. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So allow me to share some of its content. Page 58, Section 1. The purpose of guidelines. The City of Minot adopts this code of ethics and conduct to assure that all elected and appointed officials conduct themselves in a manner that will instill public confidence and trust in their operation and integrity of the city. Section 2, the member of the City Council, all board, committees, and commission members shall conduct themselves in accordance with the following standard of ethics. Subsection 1, act in public interest. Recognizing that serving the public interest is a primary concern, members must work for the common good of all of the people of Minot and not any one private or personal interest. And they must assure fair and equal treatment of all persons, claims, transactions coming before the City of Minot. Subsection 5, conduct in a public meeting. Members shall come to all meetings prepared to discuss the public issues. They shall listen courteously and attentively to all public discussion brought before the body and shall focus on particular issues at hand. All members shall refrain from interrupting other speakers or making personal comments. Page 60, Section 3, Subsection 2, practice active listening. It is disconcerting to speakers to have members not look at them when they're speaking. Be conscious of your facial expressions. Avoid those that could be interpreted as smirking, disbelief, anger, or boredom. I have concerns regarding some of the way the citizens of Minot were treated last week at City Council meeting. I believe personal interest was brought to us by members of this council. A member of this council did not refrain from interrupting other speakers. A member of this council did not practice active listening. As we witnessed facial expressions, smirking, anger, rolling of the eyes, as well as dismissive remarks, all of which are not in agreement with the handbook. So my question to you is, who oversees the Code of Ethics and Conduct? And can we, the citizens of Minot, be assured compliance of set guidelines adhere to each and every member of this council? At the end of the day, each and every one of us is accountable for our own actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Name for the record, please.
Asher Hoffarth, and I'll put my legal name on the sheet just so I don't. I am a 17-year-old. I go to Magic City campus here in town. I am a citizen of Minot. I just wanted to say thank you to Carrie Evans and to Mayor Sean Sitma for flying the LGBTQIA flag. I am a transgender male. I am very proud to be a Minot citizen. I loved growing up here. However, like people before, I'm most likely going to leave just because the hatred and stuff that has been spewed towards myself and people like me and the community. I'd like also to thank Magic City of Quality. They have helped me greatly along this journey that I am on, and they will always forever be one of the home groups that I come to here in Minot when I'm back in town visiting. So I just wanted to say thank you and for representing us.
Hello, Tamara Allard, Skyline Drive, Minot. I am the owner of Biscuits and Bows Pet Spa and a very proud mother of a gay young man. I came here today because I was utterly appalled by what I saw at the last meeting. Not only that, but because my own life and the safety of my son were actually threatened by a former client of almost 10 years, actually, because she saw a photo of me on the news hugging my son as the pride flag was raised. I'm just going to do a small quote. Your son is an abomination, and the fact that not only you allow him to flaunt his sins, but support it is disgusting, and you should be ashamed. You do know I have a son who goes to school with your faggot child and can ensure his demise if I so choose. I will be waiting outside your business, locked, loaded, and ready. I hope you have good insurance on that little business of yours because I can't wait to watch it burn. People like your son are the reason we have so many issues in this country. You should invest in a Bible and read it. I will make sure hellfire's upon you, your child, your business, and all of those bleeps in the fag world. You should be ashamed. Can't wait to watch the blood spill from your faggot son's face as my son beats him to death. You know what? It hurt. But you know what hurts worse? What hurts worse? If we can all just imagine for one moment having to live in fear every day for just being who you are, fear of being beaten or killed, or fear of telling your family about your true self because you're scared of ridicule, being told you're sick and you need help, being kicked out of your own family or friend group because people think it's wrong, when all you want is acceptance that you're different. The ability to walk down the street hand in hand with the person that you love, just as a straight person would, without being called out, ridiculed, or without the fear of your life being taken from you. As a human being, I cannot imagine having to live my life in constant fear because of who I am and who I love. People cry freedom of speech. There is a huge line between freedom of speech and hate speech. Freedom of speech sparks debate and discussion. Hate speech sparks bigotry, anger, and violence. The raising of the pride flag is not a threat to your religion or your heterosexuality. It is not saying everyone should be part of the LGBTQ plus community. It is not saying that we're here to take over the world, but it is saying that we accept you for who you are, who you love. We accept you as a human being, that you have equal rights regardless of who you are, who you love. That is saying that you're not alone. That even though we're different, we have different views, different viewpoints, different beliefs, that we accept your differences and we see you. Isn't this America? Didn't our soldiers, many who are part of the LGBTQ plus community, fight for our right to be free? I believe they did. So how exactly is it okay for straight people to be free to be who they are and love who they love, and not the people of the LGBTQ plus community? Everyone's saying the Bible says no, or the Bible says this, the Bible says that. Guess what? Not everybody has the same religion. Not everybody has the same God. Not everyone has the same thoughts, the same beliefs.
So why is this still a problem?
1 minute.
Because you believe in a book that was written 3,500 years ago and it's changed God knows how many times? In the Bible, it states, love thy neighbor, not love thy neighbor only when you see fit. The people of Minot need more love in their hearts, and it's about time that they practice what they preach. My beliefs and your beliefs will always differ, and that's okay. No one is asking you to change your beliefs. We're not asking for anything other than to be treated as human beings with the same rights as everyone else, because at the end of the day, we're all different somehow. Different ethnicities, religions, genders, sexual orientation, some of us even different countries of origin. But we're all the same race, the human race, and it's about time that we start acting like it. Stop tearing each other down, start building each other up. Look past our differences and come together, because guess what? That doctor that just saved your life, she was born a man. The peace officer who protected your family member, guess what? He's gay. The fireman who saved your home, bisexual. The cook at your favorite restaurant who makes your favorite meal just how you like it, he's African American.
Time has expired.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys. We appreciate Carrie Evans wherever she went to. Thanks, guys.
Name for the record, please.
Christopher Scott, Minot State University. First off, that flag represents everyone. That's not just for LGBTQ, but using that flag to discriminate, to not discriminate against them, and to use it as basically to say that they are not a part of that flag. What's wrong with raising the pride flag? What's wrong with doing that? It's a flag. It's a piece of fabric, as they say. But raising that flag in Minot, North Dakota, that means we care for it. We do not want them to leave. We do not want us to leave as young people. A lot of my friends are part of the LGBTQ community. A lot of them are attacked. A lot of them are threatened to be killed by someone else. So raising that flag means that this community cares for them, that we want them here, that we want their jobs here. We want them to work here. We want them to feel welcomed. And that is why I support that pride flag raising. And the same thing as to why I support it being raised at the university tomorrow. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Liz Hopman. I live at 422 3rd Avenue Northwest. I've lived in Minot for 45 years. My husband was born and raised here, and I have found Minot to be a great place to live. I'd like to thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council, and audience for letting me speak. I'm here to address the issue of other flags being flown in front of City Hall and other government buildings in Minot. My husband and I were disappointed at what happened on the 8th, I believe, the prior council meeting. In fact, we were very upset when we saw on TV what happened. But I'd like to ask you, please don't jump to conclusions. The objection to having the LGBTQ 2S plus flag may not have been hatred of that community. My husband is a Vietnam veteran who has a deep respect for our country, state, and city. Likewise, so do I. We both feel it's not appropriate to fly other flags in front of City Hall or other government buildings. My husband voiced that concern to the mayor when the Juneteenth flag was flown in front of City Hall. I recently raised the issue of the LGBTQ 2S plus flag or any other flag in a letter to the editor of the Minot Daily News, which was not printed. Immediately, it was assumed that my husband and I were against the LGBTQ 2S plus community. That is not the case. How people communicate is very important. In the past few days, I've talked to no less than 50 people I know and quite a few that I don't know face-to-face about the flag flying issue. I've yet to find anyone who thought it was a good idea to hoist flags other than the U.S., state, or city flag on the flagpole in front of City Hall. Don't fall into the trap of thinking the feelings of the community at large are just those you receive on social media. I've worked issues with this council before, and going door to door and knocking is a huge eye-opener to you when you're working an issue. Get out and talk to people face to face. You might be very surprised with what they have to say. There is a silent majority out there that is hesitant to speak up because of fear of being branded as a bigot or other type of retribution. As far as support goes for the mayor and the city council of our great city of Minot, my husband and I appreciate the mayor and council members and anybody who works for the city at large. We do not need to know your sexual orientation, creed, color, or political affiliations. Just do a good job for the city at large and you will have our support. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Deb Hoffarth, I'm a citizen of Minot. City Council and Mayor, thank you so much for having the patience to sit through a couple of long meetings here regarding this issue. And actually, I came here today with the intention to observe, not to actually speak. I believe the city did the right thing in flying the pride flag. The LGBTQ2+ community is an important part of the community, and it's important to recognize and provide equal representation to all of the citizens within the state. I am actually Asher's mom and very proud for that. And so I've been really saddened by what I think is outright hatred shown by my fellow community members. Of all the people I've seen speak both at the last city council member and some tonight, not all, I can say that I never really felt love. I really felt that the comments are made, were not made in love. They were made in anger about the situation. And I'm just gonna say, I think it's a tough time for me as a Christian to listen to some of the things that have been said about what a Christian believes or does. Because I'm a firm believer that the Bible is not a weapon. It's not to be used as a weapon, it's to be used as a tool of grace. And so a Christian stands with their neighbors. They stand with the disenfranchised. The humanity of the LGBTQ community is never up for debate, should never be up for debate. And so I thank you for recognizing and supporting this community and flying the flag. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Dan Merck. I'm a citizen of Minot. I've got a little bit of a different take, and I don't think I'll take very long, but my concern when I heard about this was that the idea to raise the flag was just one or two people. And Mayor Sipman, when you changed the city council and ran for mayor, my take was that you wanted the city council to be more of a representative government. Before that, one alderman would represent me and everyone else was kind of against me, and now I get to vote for every representative. And your take, as I understood it, was that now I get to vote for every representative and it would be more representative government. And so I guess I was disappointed to hear that the city council didn't vote on whether to raise the flag. And it was just a decision made, I heard by you, but I could be wrong. But and I just want to know you to know that if every one of these people voted for it on that flag raising, and if I didn't like the way they voted, the next time I would vote against them. It's the same thing if I don't like the way you voted. To be honest, when you ran with when you ran, I voted for you and I supported you because the current city council was making a lot of bonehead mistakes, and I just thought that you would do a better job running the city. But, so, just to get right to the point, I just think that the decisions like this should be made and voted on, and then if I don't like the way Mr. Jansen, Mr. Pittner, you vote, then I can vote against you the next time. Okay, so that's just what I wanted to point out. Thank you.
Name and city of residence, please.
My name is Russell Schauer from Regent, North Dakota. Did you want my address?
That's fine. You can put the address when you're done.
Okay. I know this seems like a problem. You know when the problem started? I know when the problem started. I can give you a good answer. Clear back at Adam and Eve. And
Mr. Schauer?
Okay, excuse me.
You address the council.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Way back in Adam and Eve. And there was a deceiver that come in. And he was a liar. He was a thief. He was the father of lies. And if you look at different people in the Bible, like Joseph, he wanted to honor God, and some of the people did. Okay, now look how the deceiver come in. Pharaoh's wife wanted to have a sex relationship with Joseph. He ran away from it, and she didn't like it. And so he called him guilty, lied about it. Who was it? It was the father of lies. See, if we understand what's going on here, it's real clear, real clear. The beginning of wisdom is to fear the Lord. And then when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, the father of lies, the people that didn't like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they brought accusation against them, and they were supposed to be thrown in. I don't know if you guys know your Bible that much. Maybe you do. I hope you do. They were thrown into the furnace of fire. It was built up, I think it was 7 times hotter than normal fire. And the people that threw them in, they were burnt to death. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was standing in there, and all of a sudden there was there's another man standing in there with them. And I hope that man is standing in this room today. You might not see him, but he's here. And you know what? They had him bound. The only thing that burnt on the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their ropes were burned off. They were free. I'm going to throw this in real quick. Last night I was laying in bed, and I was so free, and I thank God for the love of Jesus. I couldn't believe I wouldn't trade it if somebody would give me $1 million, maybe $1 trillion. I wouldn't trade what I had last night laying in my bed. That's how great God is. And like I said earlier, the beginning of wisdom is to fear the Lord. There's no fear of the Lord today. The Bibles are thrown out. Our government has thrown it out. I'm not trying to be mean to you guys. I'm just telling you the truth. See, the whole world lies in darkness, except for the people. Jesus Christ says, I'll take them out of darkness into my marvelous light. And then he says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. There's a good deal for all of you. I hope you're there, but maybe you're not. But there's a good deal. You can be religious, but not righteous. I was very religious, but I wasn't righteous. Like I said the last time, in a locker room in Minneapolis, I got on my knees, and I completely surrendered. Not 90%, not 99%, but 100%. When I was walking towards that locker room, the Spirit of God come in me. I was born again, and I knew I was free. And this is what the people are looking here. The homosexuals, the lesbians, the fornicators, the drunkards. That's what they're looking for. God loves them, but that's what they're looking for. They're looking for freedom. Freedom is in Jesus Christ. He says, I am the, okay, goes pretty fast. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And I've talked to, listen to stories, and I got books I like to give to each one of you on lesbians and homosexuals. they didn't like the sin in their life. In fact, this one lady, I just read her book this last week, and she said, during the night, the Holy Spirit got a hold of her, and she says, all of a sudden, I found freedom, and then she was mentored. Now she's helping a lot of other people. And the answer to the world and to the sin problem is Jesus Christ. I found, and religion doesn't cut it. I'm not trying to be mean. The religion doesn't cut it, but Jesus Christ will give you the answer. You can be free, each and every one of us. Everyone in this room can be free. If they, and you know, one thing this lady said, Jesus, the Holy Spirit told her, I just don't want to set you free from your, lesbianism, but I want to set you free from your sin and darkness. And now she's free. Thank you.
Simeon Waddington from Southbury. I, first of all, want to apologize if I came across as hateful. I certainly don't have hate in my heart for any individual at all. Is there anger? Is there disappointment? Definitely. And as I said last time, I was here to warn of the judgment of God, because it's in the Word. I know the Word of God was mocked here tonight, but it will not be mocked. God says he will not be mocked. And what he says will come to pass. Every dotting of the I and every crossing of the T. And I want to address the lady over here because she addressed us after we were gone. And so I'm going to address the churches tonight. That's what I want to address real quick. And first of all, I'd like to read Titus 11 through 15, because I know a lot of people say the Old Testament. Well, we're in Titus here. For the grace of God that bringeth salvation hath appeared to all men. He says his law is written on our hearts. We know right and wrong. Has appeared to all men, teaching us that denying ungodliness and worldly lusts, we should live soberly, righteously, and godly in this present world, looking for that blessed hope and the glorious appearing of the great God and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Praise God. That thrills me. I'm sorry, but it does. Of our Lord Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us, every one of us, the people in the LGBT community, all of us. God loves and died for all of our sins. We must accept it to have eternal life, though. And it goes on to say, who gave himself for us, that he might redeem us from all iniquity and purity, and purify unto himself a peculiar people, zealous of good works. Praise God, let us be zealous for good works today. There's not a lot of them around, is there? This world and our whole government is just going crazy. Look around us. Come on, please pay attention. Zealous of good works. These things speak, exhort, and rebuke with all authority. Let no man despise thee. Now that's the word of God. You can mock it if you will, but the Bible says a day will come when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is the King of kings and the Lord of lords. Praise God for that. And I tell you now, read Revelations, the 7 churches. There was only one found without fault. And in one of the 7 churches, he warned them. He said, I wish you were either hot or cold. But since you're lukewarm, he said, I'll spew you out of my mouth. He wants nothing to do with someone that stands in the middle and tries to ride both sides of the fence. See, God says light has no fellowship with darkness. Now, we can profess it. He said, these people honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. We can profess that. But I tell you, the proof's in the pudding. It's in our works. Amen? Remember what Romans says? The man read the first chapter of Romans. I wished he would have read it all. It's powerful. It's unbelievable. It goes on, I think it's in Romans chapter 6. He says, he's talking about his love and grace after that. His love and grace towards us as sinners, he paid the price for you. And you just have to accept that. His love goes deeper than any sin. Praise God, deeper than any sin. But he says in 6, he says, what should we say then? Do we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid, for how can we that are dead to sin remain any longer therein? Because you see, before that he was said, where sin abounds, grace does much more abound. Where sin abounds, the grace of God is much greater. And it sovereign. Praise God for that. So remember, as Christians, where grace abounds, do we continue in sin because of this? God forbid. How can we that are dead to sin remain any longer therein? And the Word of God is a sword, the Bible teaches. This is all we have to stand on. As the Constitution, as our Bill of Rights, as going to a court of law, we stand on the law of God, praise God. We stand on the law of God, and maybe a day will come when we'll get thrown in jail for it or martyred for it. I found life in Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm 58. We got another minute, do I?
That was 5
Okay.
minutes.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Daniel Nicholas, and I reside in Minot, North Dakota. I've been here for 3 years, and I just want to say that I really do appreciate that you did decide to raise the flag, Mayor Simpa and Carrie Evans. It does mean a lot, especially in this area. And I just wanted to inform y'all, as I feel like a lot of people aren't informed and have just they associate, I've just kept seeing the comments on Facebook and people they don't know about these things. We do not support pedophilia ever, and I'm not sure where people get this assumption or association, and I'm really, really tired of seeing that. And it's the same thing back in gay marriage was accepted. Same thing over there, and with the whole transgender restroom issue before, it's always the same thing I keep seeing, and I feel like people aren't actually looking to gain more knowledge about our community in general. In fact, and then before Stonewall and all that, we were arrested for just being gay, for just associating together, and it's just, I don't know. I just feel a lot of emotions, and when people were saying there was no hatred in the last meeting, and it's just, hatred is a strong dislike, and I felt just watching through that, I wish I was there. It was just a strong dislike for something, and it was just a strong dislike for that piece of fabric, how, as previous speaker was saying, and it's just we just want love, we want acceptance, stuff like that, and sometimes a lot of our individuals here in North Dakota don't feel that, and I'm not sure, I'm just speaking out of emotion. And I think I'm just going to end it there because I'm not even sure what to say. All right, I just want to thank you for your time and everything.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Roselli Sullivan. I am a proud Minotian. I'm from here, born and bred, was gone 20 years and came back. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, but I have heard a lot of stuff that, to me, being a lesbian, is very still hateful. But you know what? I think it's a move in the right direction of what you did, Mayor Sitma, and the city council members. Like Sean Ann brought up earlier, it's important to get uncomfortable in order to get progress. And I'm proud of you. I'm proud of our city. I will stand by and support every one of my brothers and sisters in our community. I get that we all have our differences, and I love everybody who is here up speaking, no matter what your point of view is. We're all gonna have to agree to disagree, but we all have to agree that we have to love one another, the human race, and also to remember, be careful who you hate. because it could be somebody you love. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Last call for public appearances for anyone to talk about any item that is or not on our agenda. Come forward and state your name. We've got one and then two.
My name is Damon Kinchin, 712 24th Avenue Northwest, Minot. I, for one, just want to say that I congratulate y'all on what y'all did with the pride flag. I congratulate y'all on what y'all are doing in this town. I love this city, and that is why, because we accept change. All these people up here complaining about it, honestly, I'm gonna say it like this, rude or not, y'all need to get a life. And that's all I gotta say. Thank you very much.
I'm not very good at public speaking, but Cindy Springstead, and I'm a resident of border of Minot, bordering Burlington. I'm more here as a mom. I'll start out by saying I'm not gay, but I have more than one children that has a different sexuality than mine. And when they came to me, there's nothing in this world I love more than my kids. And I back them 100%. And alienating them or them not being in my life is not an option. So I choose to support them. And, yeah, I get a little tongue-tied. But I can't say, Mayor Sitma, I gotta admit, I didn't like you much until last time you spoke. You're changing my mind quickly. But my kids mean more to me than anything in this world, and I will do everything to support them. And when that flag flew, it showed me that, there is more acceptance of them, and that there were times when my kids were growing up, my son would come home beaten up, bleeding, shoved out of lunch lines, shoved into lockers by kids because of his sexuality when he didn't even know what his sexuality was at that time. And, but I'm very proud of my kids. They're good-hearted people, and I fully back them. And I just have a suggestion. I mean, I fully understand people that don't want a flag, another flag on there, but maybe there's some sort of halfway ground where, I mean, like other cities have like a small marquee or a small billboard, like an area of recognition, that's kind of what I was just thinking was maybe a halfway point. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Name and city of residence.
Travis Zablotny, Minot. Many of you thought I was just going to stand back there and be quiet today, and so did I. But first and foremost, for me, the behavior of this council, and primarily one, and the mayor, last week was atrocious, unacceptable. I don't support you, Mr. Mayor, in the behavior and how you handle and deal with people. They're all your citizens as a mayor. We all deserve respect, as we should give it to you as well. Miss Evans the same way, completely disrespectful. There's no way we can ever move forward on any conversation without the premise and the basic feeling of respect. And I hope that the code of ethics that were cited tonight are read by all of you before the next meeting and understood and followed. We will be watching as citizens of this community. The other thing I'd like to say, I find it troubling that it's difficult for people to discern between the hate of a behavior and the hate of a person. I haven't heard anybody in here that dislikes the behavior represented by the flag that was flown say anything about hating the persons. Now, I did hear one individual cite some social media or whatever it was, I don't know. And I'm sorry for that. That's horrible. That's the worst of humanity right there. Again, it goes back to respect. How do we ever, as a community, move forward without respecting one another? Having the ability to disagree and have a conversation about it. You win some and you lose some, I get it. And it shouldn't always be looked at winning and losing. You know, and bringing up the fact that there was some hate thrown out there, you know, I bet we can bring anybody with any sort of a different idea, opinion, lifestyle, whatever, that gets on social media and starts talking about it's going to find somebody. I don't care what it is. If you're a part of the Rainbow Flag Group, or you're a part of a Christian church, or you're a part of Hot Rod, you know, whatever. There's going to be somebody out there that's going to disagree. And if you take it personally every time, like I said, there's no progress. I disagreed with flying the flag, again, as it's been said. We are represented there. We don't need special representation. I don't need somebody else's beliefs pushed my direction, especially by the city. And I hope that's taken into consideration in the future. Thank you.
Last call for public comment. Seeing none, we will move on to our next agenda item, and that is miscellaneous and discussion. Item 7.1 is the MADC report. Part of the agreement with the City of Minot, MADC is required to provide a written update of their contractual obligations, and there was an attachment as well. We do have MADC Acting Executive Director, appointed Executive Director. John, I apologize. It's a little late in the evening. Mr. John McMartin.
It certainly is. I'm probably the only thing standing between you and adjournment, unless I read the agenda wrong, so.
There is one more after you.
There is one more. Okay, well then I can talk for an hour, right?
There you go.
The report that you've got in front of you, and it is there because of the contract we have with the city. We should have been here in June. We talked about everything that was going on in June. And then we got to July and I had foot surgery. And so here we are in September. So we ask for your indulgence. As you read this report, you're going to see that it makes reference to June because that's when it was due. We'll be back in, I hope, December, or if the city manager wants to push me into January, it'll be in January, but we'll be back with the next 6-month report. As with society, business, and our personal lives.
Mayor, can we get somebody to close the doors? I can't hear.
John, I apologize. For the folks out in the foyer, if you either would move downstairs or keep it down, I apologize, Mr. McMartin.
So as I was saying, and thank you, Carrie, I appreciate that. The reports that are there, everything has been upturned by the COVID situation, whether it's the BEAR report, which is our business retention and expansion. We intend to go out and visit with people. As I've settled into my role, that I have taken some, what folks would say is either introductory courses or continuing education. And in terms of the business retention and expansion, the comment was, please don't do it virtually. Please don't do it over the phone. If you're going to do it, wait until you can go out and visit with the people individually. We've been doing pretty well with our investors. There was a point in time when we thought, when the board thought maybe we needed to forego collecting this year because of COVID. But as the board has continued to discuss that, we're billing. We're billing a couple of months late. We are, as you have seen in the press, perhaps if you're on the chamber mailing list, you've seen in the chamber publication or in the MADC newsletter that goes out as well, that we are working towards a merger between the chamber and MADC. That's being driven by the volunteers. I was surprised as they brought it up, but I can say pleasantly surprised. Our goal in this is to do more with the same. You know, we aren't looking at trying to say in combining it's going to cut this or cut that. We actually believe we can do more with the same. And the one case that I can point out is the former executive director for MADC, who is a friend of mine. She and I carpool to, I can't tell you how many meetings a week. And instead of having two people there, if we've got one and some of those resources are being used to support the staff, hopefully we can get more done for the community, both in terms of chamber and chamber advocacy and in terms of MADC welcoming or looking for new businesses. Some of the other areas in here, we'll talk about trade shows and other things. What trade shows got done before COVID blew up. And right now, it's extremely hard to find any trade show that we're going to go to try to, let's say, recruit a new business that's going on in person. And I haven't figured out how you make that work virtually. You know, I don't think you can. So with that, I'll stop and see if there's any questions, knowing that I'll be back again, or if you think of something else as you read through this further, the office phone number is there. Some of you have got my personal phone number. My desk phone is 857-8203. Please reach out.
Thank you, Mr. McMartin. Any questions for John? Alderman Patagula.
Excuse me, just a comment. In a way, it's disconcerting to have these two organizations that I've lived with and worked with for so many years kind of become one. I think there are different agendas, different constituencies, things like that. But I think it really makes sense in a way, and it's going to take some getting used to. As you mentioned, I think there are some economies of scale we'll have. I think the focus will be more unified. I think there'll be less repetition of people talking, attending meetings, participating, whatever. And I also, I'm very pleased personally and professionally, that you're, being a part of this transition. And, my hope is that, within a couple of years when this thing is settled, that during that time we have a reassessment of, where we're at with economic development and growth, both in terms of our local businesses and businesses we're trying to attract. And I think it's also time to kind of deepen and continue the discussion that your groups have had with the city. I think, frankly, the IEDC visit and the ongoing follow-up that's occurred have been some of the most positive things I've seen in improving, our overall quality of life and the nature of the community. And I hope we take that time, that interregnum, if you will, to step back and look at that area of economic development and see how it kind of synchronizes with what the city government has been trying to do, and hopefully other governmental subdivisions. So I think it's a little bit of an unsure path here, obviously, and a little bit uncomfortable in some ways. But I think this is a real opportunity for the organizations and for the city to, as we have been doing the past couple of years, reassessing the role we play in economic development, and together looking at how we can improve, how we can take things to a different level. The world has changed dramatically and is changing and will change again perhaps in November.
Very easily could.
And I think I think this is a good time to kind of step back, think through, have the discussions again, come up with a more shared, if you will, vision or set of directions we'll be going to. So I appreciate the good work MADC has done. I mourn its impending demise. But I'm very hopeful and very pleased with the phoenix that will hopefully rise from the merging of these two organizations. And again, looking forward to more collegial collaboration with the city. I mean, we've decided in these past 4 or 5 years to jettison some of the functions we used to have. The recreation, I think, function was the biggest one, and that was something that really Sean, at the time, I wasn't sure about, but I think has been clearly a very good move, and Sean certainly deserves credit for spearheading that. I personally would have liked us to have had that, but the important thing is it's combined, it's unified, and that makes a lot of sense. So I think some functions we've shed and jettisoned, other functions I think we're taking on and becoming more serious on and more invested in. And I think economic development is one of those functions. So I'm very pleased and looking forward to see how the process will play out.
Thank you, Alderman Padragula. We, as we move forward and as we look at things, I'm ever mindful, maybe too much of a student of the past, but I'm ever mindful of how many times we've promised voters that the Magic Fund dollars are going to be private sector type businesses. And so at least for the foreseeable future, you will perhaps see me jealously guard that history. I can tell you that I have a great rapport with the city manager, acting city manager. I enjoy my conversations with him and we reach out frequently. I've enjoyed my interactions with Brian. Earlier on your consent agenda, you did things with the Chrissy grant, and I've got a great working relationship with who brought those changes back through. And just last week, I think I spent an hour and a half with Jonathan, the new community development planner or new community development specialist. And I am looking forward to spending more time with him and developing a better rapport. So I think all things are moving forward, and that's the way to get things done.
I think so too.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. McMartin? Thank you, John. I appreciate you staying.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
That takes us to 7.2, and this is an update from First District Health Unit. Lisa Clute is, of course, the director of First District, and I'd asked him to come and give us an update with everything that has been going on. And Lisa, I'd like to say that I appreciate it as well for a long meeting, but I know you all have been working very long hours for a very long time. So the floor is yours.
Thank you.
I'll do that. I'll do it. Oh, 2. 3. Holy cow. Okay, hold on.
Can you handle it, Steve?
Yeah. Sorry.
Well, good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide and I will try to keep it brief, update on activities as it relates to COVID, and also just where we're sitting at right now. So my intention is that this will be a situational update for you as policymakers, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have. So what I passed out first was the First District Health Unit Board of Health is the governing entity over First District Health Unit. And we are not affiliated with the State Health Department. We do have the ability to make our own policies and procedures. And I think there was some confusion right off the bat, and understandably so. We certainly were in uncharted territory here with all of this. And so we have made our position as a Board of Health in regards to the COVID. And I will just let you, well, I passed it out, but just to let you know that we are utilizing the CDC guidance as our guiding principle and utilizing them for education information to the public. We are following the North Dakota Smart Restart Guidelines. And we do not, this was, I think, what was confusing, we do not approve or reject any events that happen within this community. So we are, again, passing along the guidelines. At this point, the governor has made those guidelines and recommendations, and we provide that information to the public. And when event planners or businesses or food vendors or whomever contact us, that is the guidance that we provide them. That has to do with COVID-related guidance. That is separate from our food code that we typically enforce throughout our businesses and food vendors and restaurants throughout the community. Okay, one thing that we have taken on, and it has taken a tremendous amount of time, but it has been a great partnership, and that is with the schools. We have throughout our district 38 school districts. Throughout First District, we have 38 school districts. We are working with them on a daily basis. And so the way it is working right now is as people are tested and they are identified as a student within a school district, we contact that school district. We have 24/7 phone numbers to all of the points of contacts within the schools. We help them with contact tracing, but a lot of the schools are doing most of their contact tracing, and provide them any guidance that they've asked for recommendations. We have had a team that I stood up, I think, back the end of July, first part of August, working with our schools and developing policies and assisting with them. So the school boards obviously have the authority to set their own guidelines and rules, and we are there as a consultation for them. So I think that, again, it's been uncharted territories. Poor schools, they have had a fall from heck. So anyways, but we are working to keep them safe, and it is a high, high priority for First District to keep these schools going and as in-person learning as possible. We know the impacts that has on the health of the community to not have that going. So we have placed a lot of emphasis on that. You hear about us testing throughout the community. We are testing, and I'll go through that a little bit further in this presentation. Health assurance, again, to serve as communicable disease experts within the community. We have hotlines going and phone lines going all the time with people calling with questions, and that's important for the people to have that. There are a lot of people that have become so-called experts throughout this process, and so it's important to rely on people that do this for a profession and entities that have a lot of track record and experience in the prevention of disease control or disease outbreaks. The Department of Health will assist First District as well as the Governor's Office with conducting the lab analysis. We're responsible for testing and transporting those tests on a daily basis. I've contracted some couriers, so those tests need to get down to state lab within the same day that they are conducted, and so they are transported then. Right now, we started out, First District was doing contact tracing, all the contact tracing. We have moved out of a lot of that contact tracing. The State Health Department has built up those resources to do that. And we are moving more into the testing realm. I mean, there were so many people that we had and we couldn't do it all. So as we were moving, spending more time testing and getting ready for the fall and possible vaccination efforts, we have moved some of those contact tracing responsibilities back. We still have people that are doing some limited contact tracing. We're calling out all of the positives within our own health unit and initiating some of those cases and responses and helping the schools with contact tracing. So with that, I will jump to the other few documents that I have, and one of it is the data sources that we use. And we have 3 primary data sources that we are watching on a daily and weekly basis. One first, and I'll have to say this first page is a synopsis of the data that we keep at First District. And I can provide more detailed information to you if you would like that, but I didn't know that you wanted pages and pages of data. So it is just keeping track of, and I just gave this for Ward County, but the total tests conducted, total individuals tested, our 14-day rolling positivity rate, our current long-term care cases, and our current long-term care cases, for both residents and staff. So we monitor those long-term care facilities within our community closely. We know that that is a very vulnerable, at-risk population, and we've seen catastrophic results when things get going in long-term care facilities. The next is the state county information. There is state and county-specific data available on the North Dakota Department of Health website dashboard. And I didn't print out all of that, but I just want you to make you aware of the information that is available to you. It's updated every day at 11 o'clock on the North Dakota Department of Health website. That will indicate your positivity rates, your positives, your rates for the day. You'll see some of the trend lines, and I think the most important thing that you gather from this, separate from what we're providing you, is the ages of our cases. And if you'll look on the second page, and this does not reflect all of the information on the dashboard. There are several pages, but these are the 2 that I printed out for you. And the second page really indicates where our cases are coming from. And if you will look at the age comparisons, it is by far the 20 to 29 population is where we are seeing most cases right now. And and it's almost like it goes out on either side of that. So we're seeing more high school students, college students, young workforce people in the positive cases right now. The other piece of information that we review is the White House sends North Dakota governor a weekly summary, recommendation, and data. And I have provided that to you also. The governor determines what to do with those recommendations on some of those things, but we also locally can look at those recommendations. And so you'll see that they have enacted several of those recommendations. Excuse me. We're watching this upcoming weekly report carefully because I think Ward County saw some spikes since this last report from the White House was written, but we will see how that reflects in the next summary. But this is information that you can have. I'm not going to go through all of it. You can certainly read it at your leisure. It will indicate what the White House is recommending to North Dakota, which counties should be in red zones, yellow zones, green zones, and so forth. And there have been some shifts from the previous recommendations. There's some good things that are happening in North Dakota, and we have to keep sight of that too. We know some things are working very well. But the other thing we are also watching for in all of the communities and us at First District, we work very closely with Trinity Hospital, keeping track of how they're doing, and they are working hard with us also. We have taken on all of the testing in regards to asymptomatic people in this community to get that off of the hospital. The one thing that can be somewhat deceiving is it looks like you have lots of hospital beds available, but that isn't always the whole picture. The staffing impacts and how many people may be out in regards to COVID impact those the availability too. They have diverted people outside of Minot. And at this point, they're managing it, but it is a struggle, and we'll see how cases go. But we are watching it very, very closely. And we will certainly work with them in response to that. I talked about the flu or the school consultation. The other thing that we are working hard at right now, I need to get my glasses back. Working hard at is flu vaccination. We think that that is very, very important this flu season. And we are out in the community working on work sites. We have changed our model for how we deliver flu vaccinations so that we're able to provide that with social distancing and masking. And so that is, if you need your flu shot, call First District. But I also would like to say, please take the opportunity to get your flu shot wherever you can. It does not need to be at Trinity. It doesn't need to be at First District. If you can get it wherever you can, get it. I would encourage you all and encourage the community to do that earlier this year than what they typically have vaccinated for. The other thing that we are working on and are following closely is the COVID vaccine. Anybody that says that they know when COVID vaccine is going to be available and who it's coming from and all of those things, they're not accurate. Nobody knows. That is the mystery that we are all plagued with right now. There are several trials out there. There is manufacturing happening while those trials are being conducted. We are confident that they are going to make those vaccines as safe and as effective as possible. And we want more than anything for those to be safe and effective. We'd rather have them later than sooner to assure safe, effective vaccines. So in light of that, First District's been tasked from the governor and all the health units, make sure that you are ready to distribute mass vaccinations for the COVID vaccine when it comes out. I just want to assure you all that this is what we do at First District. We mass vaccinate. And so this isn't a new plan that needs to be written. The only thing that needs to be rewritten possibly is how the vaccine is going to come in regards to the cold storage. Some of the vaccine is needing to be kept at, or some of the trials are needing cold storage, which means vaccine needs to be kept at 70 degrees below zero. So maybe we'll have a cold January, I don't know. But
Better not be that cold.
hopefully not. So we're watching that and we're preparing for if that were to occur. The other thing is there is no way in the world that this vaccine will roll out for every American that wants it at any time, come January or whenever. It will start coming out in priority groups, and that's what our experience has been with H1N1s and so forth. If you remember that, you get it to your healthcare workers first, then you get it to your high-risk populations, obviously long-term care facilities, any congregate living facilities. Then you would be looking at people with, the elderly and so forth. So there will be, and it will be also, the emergency responders. So when the healthcare workers, the first doses come out and they are needed to be administered, we will work with the healthcare providers and they will administer their own vaccine. Typically, when new vaccine comes out, it comes out to a local public health unit. We've done that in the past. We pull all the healthcare providers together, we distribute it out and get it out to those high priority groups. So Mr. Lakefield and I had a conversation last week talking about, buildings that we may need, and I have very much so appreciated the city's willingness to help us out whenever that is needed and look at buildings. But for us to say right now what buildings will be needed, how many, that's an impossible guess. And I am confident that this community will come together when we have more information and get the job done. I don't want to spend a lot of time developing plans that may not come to fruition. We're all busy enough right now. So we are not ignoring the vaccine issue. We're watching it carefully, but know that I know we can get the job done when the time comes. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Blute, both for the information in the handout and the presentation and information. Any questions for Lisa? Let's start with Alderwoman Evans here.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi.
I missed, you were talking about the 3 data sources. So it was
Yes.
the White House, the North Dakota State Health Department, and what was the third? I missed that one.
The third is data that we have been collecting
Okay,
at First District
itself.
our
Okay.
local
Awesome,
data.
thank you.
We've tracked from the beginning since March 11th. So monitoring our data. Yep.
Great, thank you so much.
Alderman Patagula.
A comment and 3 questions. Comment is a week and a half ago, my wife and I both got flu shots at First District. Was effortless and pretty much painless and was very easy to get in and out. And we appreciate that personally, and we wanted to get our shots early. So that's the comment. The questions are just to clarify some things to make sure I understand correctly. I guess the first one is under the county report as of this morning. Am I correct in understanding we've only had 4 fatalities in Ward County out of the 192 or whatever for the state? 4 of those have been in Ward County. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. The second comment is, or second question rather, is we're looking at a cumulative positivity rate of about 5.8%. And a daily positivity rate of 9.8%. The 5.8, if I remember correctly, is still in that yellow zone toward the lower end. The 9.8 is really close to the 10% positivity rate that would qualify as a red zone and lead to great caution. Am I correct on that, too?
Yes, there are, and that's why you look at different data points. There's two ways of measuring this. The governor at North Dakota, they look at the 14-day rolling average, and the White House or federal looks at a 7-day rolling average. We have chosen to be consistent with the governor's recommendations just because it's cleaner to go with his model. So we go with the 14-day, but the overall is from the beginning of March 11th. That's where you're seeing that overall. So yes, we are seeing our positivity rate go up substantially within the community. I will state that we have had some significant clusters in this community. And those clusters have driven some of that positivity rate up. And I can state this because Minot Public, or not Minot Public, I did not say Minot Public. MSU has made available on their website COVID numbers. And so they are providing to the public every day updated COVID cases that they have on campus, off campus, and within the staff, which is a wonderful transparency for them to do. When I stated early on when this came out, I said, I can never state where these cases are, but I think it would be great if Minot State would, and they've done a great job, I think, informing the public of what the situation is. So, yes.
Do you know for the students if that's their county of residence or if that's Ward County?
No, it is our, they count MSU students living on campus as Ward County residents.
Okay, okay. Next to last question, kind of reading between the lines, it sounds like you're also concerned about the positivity rate going up.
Yes.
As I am. And if it gets to that 10%, you'll be talking with the mayor potentially about some stronger measures urging people, hopefully not having to, but you will be looking at and advising the city administration and leadership about potential mitigation, further mitigation efforts if necessary.
Yes. I will say, you know, I was communicating during the weekend with the governor's office and letting them know what we are seeing out here, some of the struggles that we're having. We do have fewer people cooperating with quarantine and isolation. So my concern with that, I'm sorry, I have my back to you. My concern with that is we can test. But if we test and they don't quarantine and isolate, then we have the information, but we're not necessarily mitigating that, containing that spread. So, and at this point, we have only made that recommendations, and I would, who knows? The governor may, I know he's hearing that across the state, that is becoming more of a concern. Just people not, I get it. Hey, we're all sick of COVID. Nobody wants to stay home for 14 days. So, but we are seeing increased cases right now, and it's important that we certainly have the ability in this community to turn these numbers. We are seeing cases throughout the community, but not huge clusters. Sometimes there are clusters, and we've been able to address those. But we just need everybody to help us out, slow the spread, quite frankly. That's where it's at.
Final question. Do you have a sense, and it's hard, somebody who's knowledgeable about statistics with small sample sizes, it's very hard to predict anything and look at trends. And I think the 14-day probably is a wiser kind of metric to use. It seems very conservative in some ways, but with these small n's, what else can you do? So I understand that and I accept that as a statistician. But do you have any sense of why this is seeming to peak. On this morning's newspaper, we're the only state in dark red in terms of incidents. Is it a matter of clusters that we're seeing that just aren't being reported, or is it a matter of just kind of the dissemination of the virus throughout the population and we're just kind of remote, we're the last people to get hit? Or do you have any idea of why it's going up now?
Well, we saw a substantial increase when all of the universities went back into session. And we are testing very rigorously.
And that's very good.
We are over at MSU twice a week, running about, next week we'll run, or this week we're running 800 tests per week out of MSU. And we have a static site that we're running out of First District Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. So anybody can get a same day or next day appointment at the latest from when they want a test. And we have the capacity to run up to 200 tests at that static site. So we've got tests available and we're getting out there. But yeah, it is, and I'm not, young people, they got back together this fall. I don't know what else to say about it. Colleges came back together, young people, sports started. All of those things are good things. We just want to keep them going. So I want to be clear, we're not advocating for those to not happen. We just want to make sure that we can continue to make them happen. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
Lisa, with comparative to other states, are other states doing as much rigorous testing? That was one of the questions that was brought to me on this, looking for some expertise, and I don't know. Are other states going through and doing as much testing, looking for asymptomatic or just looking for those positives the same way that North Dakota is?
Well, that's difficult for me to answer accurately because I can't put together our data next to another state's. We are testing rigorously. However, you're still looking at test results per population and, whether I don't think the answer necessarily is to explain away these positivity rates by saying, well, we're just testing more and we're finding more asymptomatic. I don't think that's an accurate assumption that we should make. The reality is these cases are here and they're spreading it, so.
Thank you. Any other questions for Ms. Kloot? Appreciate your time, Lisa. Thank you so much, and
Thank
I'm
you.
sure if anybody else has any follow-up questions, you could probably reach out to Lisa outside of the 8 o'clock, 8:30 hour here on a council night.
Thank you for your
Thank you, Ms.
attention and
Kloot. I
help with
appreciate it. We have one last item on our agenda before adjournment, and that is our liaison reports. Alderman Patagula, I'll start over on your end tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. I have about 4 things to report on. The first is, although I'm not technically assigned to it, I've been participating in Assistance Police Academy along with 2 other alder people. That has been going very well, and I would very strongly encourage those remaining few of you who have not participated to do so next time around. It's very enlightening and very educational. And even after having done it or part of it 2 years ago, significant changes, significant new things I'm learning. So that's going very well. It's a very good public relations tool for the police department, and in particular, Master Patrolman Aaron Moss has done an excellent job, and the presenters have also done very well. The second thing to update you on, I've attended along with Alderwoman Evans 2 meetings of the County Planning Commission, or 1 meeting, 2, I don't know, so many meetings, but we're getting around to a very important part of the agenda. We've had a consultant come in and try to revise the zoning code. This is hopelessly behind. We're all, I think, very disenchanted with him, but he will be coming up on the 15th of October and also the 29th, and we are planning 3-hour meetings those days, and we probably will have 2 or 3 more meetings at every 2-week level to look at a revised county zoning code. This is hugely important. It hasn't been revised for many years, and we will be going down to the property level to see if the zoning map fits what's there and how much we can anticipate things growing or changing in the future. So this is going to be a huge deal for people who own property in the county and want to develop. And we're going to, make sure the city's interests are protected, but we're starting a very key part of that process. And this probably will be in force for 5, 10, 15 years, maybe longer. Third thing, I'm assigned to the Commission on Aging. I attended my first meeting because of COVID cancellations. I was very pleased, very impressed. One of the friendliest groups I've ever been to. Everybody was so gracious and kind, and I think I was probably the youngest person there, apart from 2 staff members. But I don't know if as you age, you become more polite and kind, but it was really, really neat. It was really nice. Their programs are going well. They're obviously very pleased that we're putting back $105,000 or $150,000, whatever it was in our budget. They were able to weather that one year where they weren't in our budget, and they're very pleased that they're back. And they're doing very, very good things for the community in supporting our citizens. And it's a nice counterpart to what we do. It's one of those not forgotten things, but things we maybe don't pay as much attention to as recreation or economic development. But it's a really key part of holding our community together for our elders. And I'm looking forward to having more involvement with them. And last but not least, the NDR Environmental Restoration Committee, which I'm our liaison to, met, and on this coming Thursday at noon, an agenda item they were interested in, wanted to have put forward, will be before the City, County, Park Board, whoever liaison committee. That specifically is trying to get some reliable and accurate information as to what the status of the old Ramstead school site is. It's been 9 years since the flood, I think 7 or 8 years since there was a settlement between FEMA and the school district, and nobody really seems to know what the status of that land is. It's not even clear who owns it. I mean, that's how bad things are. So I'm going to be pushing very hard at Thursday's meeting to see if we can try to get some clarification of that. It's very important for the community, particularly for the recovery from the flood, to see what the constraints are on that property and what we'll be able to do with it as a community. It's a prime piece of real estate, offers tremendous opportunities, has major limitations in terms of FEMA's restrictions on how the land can be used. But I think it really, is a key area in our long-range recovery from the flood. So we'll see what the liaison committee decides and what kind of information the school board, which seems in the most knowledgeable place, will be able to provide us. So hopefully next time around we'll have some information, some reliable information at least. That's it, sir.
Alderman Patagula, I would also just recommend bringing in the Ward County Emergency Manager to that conversation, because her predecessor was one that was very deep into that, and she probably has a lot of information as well, because that went through the FEMA mitigation process. So just a little heads up.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Olson.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I attended my first Service Basin Planning Commission meeting, and it was over Zoom, and started to learn some things there. And then they also just last week hosted their annual meeting again on Zoom. And so I'm slowly getting my feet wet with that commission, and I'm impressed with the work that they do. Alderman Padragul already noted that the liaison committee is meeting this week, and I'm part of that committee. We've talked a lot about the CTE committee and the fact that I've been chairing it, and the Magic Fund approval of funding. So just as we move forward, I'm very passionate about this. I have kind of teased Dr. Shirley that I will be at a ribbon cutting for the CTE sometime in 2022. So I do plan on being there. And the last thing, I know that we talk about liaisons to a variety of committees, but I think really we're elected to be the liaisons between our community and our local government, our city staff. And in the last 2 weeks, I would say I've lost count, approximately 130 messages, whether they're phone calls or emails or people just coming up to me, and from every corner of the community and every belief. And I have to say very happily, only 2 were in opposition. to the conversations and the decisions that were made at this dais a few weeks ago. The rest have all been in support. They've all been very thankful, and they all want a sense of community and a sense of belonging, and they felt that we were moving in that direction. So that was very, very good to hear.
Thank you, Alderwoman Olson. Alderwoman Evans.
So the library is still open. They are going strong. That's Steve reported on Ward County Planning, so I'll just, they're continuing through COVID, providing amazing activities and programs all virtually. They started their after-school teen space, which actually is in person. Some teens are coming and really using the library, socially distancing. The library director has some pretty stringent rules for the kids using it, but it was important for the library to continue offering that service to our young people after school, so they figured out a way to do it. If people love the library, they're hiring 3 open positions in all their departments, one in the teen, one in the children's, and one in the adults. So that is on the minotlibrary.org website. I think they're part-time, but it's a great opportunity with city employment. So if that's something that interests anybody, please apply. That's it for the library. This isn't a liaison report, and I know the mayor's piece in the Minot Daily discussed it, but, we do have our 4 firefighters in Oregon, and I wanted to give a shout out to the entire department. I was over there on Friday, and Chief Kelly was telling me how many firefighters actually wanted to go to Oregon, and they had to, really, figure out scheduling and all that. So, although we have the 4, Captain Meadows and senior firefighters, Decoto, Hanson, and West, there was many more that put their name forward to volunteer to go. And so just for circumstances, they didn't get to go. So I want to appreciate all of them. I was able to sit in with the I believe 15 candidates who applied for firefighter positions. Their interviews on Friday have some great young people who wanting to work for the Minot Fire Department. So that's exciting, and hopefully, the department will find what they're looking for, and we'll have some great new firefighters to add to the mix. That's it for me.
Thank you, Alderwoman Evans. Alderman Ross.
My only committee that has been active lately, the Steering Ordinance Zoning Steering Committee. We're still continuing to meet every other Wednesday, and hopefully there's going to be a light at the end of the tunnel sometime soon.
You will get there, I have no doubt. Alderman Janser.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Liaison Committee has already been mentioned. The other thing on the agenda there is the upcoming election and how that's going to happen, the election. And so hopefully we'll get some good information on Thursday noon about that. There's also another committee that I'm serving on, which is the Broadway Corridor Study Group. And that's being led by folks from the Department of Transportation out of Bismarck. And out of this, and there's a number of people and a bunch of data, city staff, folks from DOT, but out of this will come sort of a master plan, if you will, for the Broadway corridor. So that's ongoing. I think we have a meeting coming up early next month or something like that. So stay tuned. There'll be some interesting results out of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Janser. Alderman Pittner.
Thank you, Mayor. The Renaissance Zone Review Board, I'm the liaison for. We had an action item that we approved at last meeting, approving new zone maps. So some real important work there. I was not able to make some of my other meetings due to an illness last week, so I have some catching up to do. And then just wanted to draw attention to not only everyone here, but also in the public. We didn't pull the item 3.5 under consent, but the first meeting in November for the Planning Commission was rescheduled because it was on Election Day. So just wanted to make sure that we're making that accommodation for the citizens and for all of us up here to make sure you get out and vote and exercise your right as an American. And lastly, She's supposed to be in bed, but I told my daughter I'd wish her happy birthday. It's her birthday next Monday. So, Charlotte, happy birthday. I love you. And that's it.
Thank you, Alderman Pittner. You can re-queue that up in the morning on YouTube and play it to her then.
I'm sure she's not asleep.
I just had a couple of things, and they're not necessarily appointed committees here, but just regular work. Continuation from the Water Topics Committee. We are working on a presentation for the Water Topics Committee that is going to really encompass what that committee would have witnessed had they been here. So we're drafting a script and a 5-minute video that we're going to be sending off to those legislators that is a representation of all of the work for the not only Minot portion of the Mouse River flood protection project, but also basin-wide. And those discussions are ongoing, of course, with the SRJB representatives on the continuation as we have been hearing more about budgets and getting more of those updated on the state side where revenue is at. And then lastly, on the zombie homes, I think we found another cherry-picked one that I don't know if it was missed or just a transition of individuals within different city departments. But between Mr. Billingsley and Mr. Zakian, I think we found another one that's going to be an easy go. Actually, surprisingly not too far from my place, but just seemed to slip under the radar coming up on 10 years. So it hasn't been touched since 2011. So that continues to move forward, and hopefully we're going to have a solid update come spring on just how few of them are left. With that.
Motion to adjourn.
Alderman Pittner, we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Jantzer. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. We're adjourned.